Let us step into the cold night. Breathe in the biting chill. You stand at winter's edge. Your boots sink deep into the snow, creaking under your weight. Moonlight paints the snow silver. Your breath drifts like clouds. You think you might not live to leave, but that is precisely why you came. To learn how the mountain folk survive, with only resilience and crude tools. To build warm homes in the wilderness. The cold threatens to swallow you whole. Before you feel at ease, please like and subscribe, but only if you truly appreciate my work. When you've settled in, tell me your location. Share your local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all come from. Now dim the lights. Feel the warmth of your room. Then imagine the wilderness before you. Let your thoughts stretch forward into the story. You tread upon frozen ground. Each step echoes in the silence. Dawn is but a faint glow beyond the mountains. A pallid ice-minus blue fills the horizon. Fingers still ache faintly within warm gloves. This is the taste of bygone years. Imagine weathering the cold with rough leather mittens, rather than modern thermal garments. History records ancient hunters who faced 50 degrees below zero, metal miners biting cold, searing skin, fingers numb within minutes. You must keep moving. Stillness invites the chill to invade. Surrounding trees stand stiff and silent. Frost adorns every branch, like intricate ice sculptures. You recall a strange legend, retold at some market fair. On the coldest of mornings, one could hear sap crackling, like nature's popcorn. It sounded absurd, yet in this stillness you could almost hear it. Deep and trodden snow beneath your feet glistened silver in the dim light. You felt the weight of solitude, not terrifying, but strangely serene. All was silent. Even your own footsteps sounded cautious. The air stings your nostrils with each breath. You sense this place is testing you. Mountain dwellers know this feeling well. Historians still debate why they journeyed alone, perhaps for strategy, or because solitude felt safer. Whatever the reason, solitude forged their resilience. The ridge ahead surges like dark waves. You lift your gaze. Morning light caresses the eastern wall, while the western side remains shrouded in deep shadow. This boundary between light and shadow is crucial. Winter builders always heed such details. You feel the cold wind brush your cheek. Note its direction. See how it veers around towering rock faces. To survive, you must know this land intimately. Understand it like a beast. Where does the wind go? Where does the snow accumulate? Where will the warm sun shine? You press on. The cold stings your ears. Nearby, the stream is frozen. Amidst the trees, it resembles pale glass. You crouch to touch the ice. Hear the water trickling beneath. A breeze sweeps through the valley, carrying the scent of pine resin. This smell is both pungent and comforting. Even here, there is life. You rise and gaze upon the earth. Now you finally understand those mountain folk. Each day is a small test for them. Before building a house, they study the dawn, watch the sun's flow, trace animal tracks, identify where the warm earth lies. This is not romance, but the way of survival. Your breath condenses into mist in the air. You bury your chin in your scarf. The horizon brightens. Soft gold spreads across the sky. The earth beneath your feet transforms. Frost crystals begin to shimmer. The rising sun touches the treetops. The trees seem draped in diamonds. What a magnificent sight. But beauty cannot ward off the cold. You wiggle your toes inside your boots and press on, listening to the crunch of snow beneath your feet. A distant cry echoes behind you. Perhaps a bird, perhaps a large beast. These sounds hold profound meaning for the mountain folk. The cry may herald sustenance, or signal impending peril. The wilderness offers no guidance, only trials in abundance. You must grasp swiftly, or the path vanishes. You pause once more, gazing upon the small clearing ahead. Mists rise between the rocks. Warm springs occasionally reveal themselves. Even in the depths of winter, the earth still seeps faint currents of warmth. Early hunters favored such spots. where they warmed frost-bitten fingers, the faint vibe, or hinting at ideal campsites. You yearn to draw nearer, to hold your palms over the steam, yet you know the journey must continue. The chill tugs at your sleeves, reminding you that only movement ensures survival. You resume your faltering steps. As dawn rises above your head, your breathing finally eases. The horizon gradually brightens. The wilderness remains vast. Yet, as you walk, you gradually adapt. Your body finds its rhythm. Your heartbeat steadies. Your gaze sharpens. This is the feeling of the mountain folk. The first light brings hope, signifying another cold night endured. They rise with stiff joints, shaking frost from their bedding, stepping into the brightening world, choosing how to weather the next storm. A breeze brushes your cheek once more. You turn with the wind, spotting a gentle slope where sunlight falls more freely. Should you choose a place to build, such details might decide everything, but that belongs to the next stretch of the journey. For now, you press on. Each step brings fresh insight. Survival begins with clear perception of the world. You head towards that gentle slope. Morning light guides your footsteps. Here the snow lies thinner. Hard grasses poke through. Your boots sink into the snow with a soft sound. A sigh like a cushion, not a crunch. You feel the earth tremble beneath your feet. Now the mountain folk slow their pace, fixing their gaze upon the ground. An instinct honed through years of hardship. Now you do the same. Observe the wind's trajectory. Watch the shadows lengthen. Pause, letting the air envelop you. Now you clearly sense the wind's direction. A persistent push from the northwest, cold and stubborn when facing it. The crystals sting your cheeks, yet sheltered from the wind. It is utterly different, as if stepping into a quilt. This simple observation holds all the mystery. Early hunters always built their dwellings on the leeward side, to minimus the wind's assault. You may have read in old diaries. They understood that a warm cottage, facing the wind, would be lost. You press further into the wind's shadow. Your hands glide along low shrubs. Fingertips brush against brittle, cracking branches. The faint scent of pine resin rises. You pause to inhale deeply. The mingling of pine frost and frozen earth yields an unexpectedly soothing fragrance. The chill no longer pierces the bones, partly because the sun has climbed higher, partly because your mind is occupied. You are absorbing every clue the earth offers. Ahead, you spot a depression in the ground, a bowl-mine-shaped hollow where the snow lies thicker. At first glance, it seems an ideal shelter, yet a few steps closer reveal it a trap. The snow lies too deep here. Ancient hunters' wisdom surfaces in your mind. The early woodcutters would thrust a wooden pole into such snow to gauge depth. If the pole vanished without a sound, the snow lay dangerously deep. You imagine trying it now, watching the pole disappear into the soft layer. You retreat from the hollow, instinctively cautious, climbing a few steps up the slope. Your boot soles touch firm ground. Here the snow grows thin again. The earth is solid and dependable. You gaze up at the vast, morning-lit sky, tracking the sun's path as it glides over the ridges. Winter sunlight hangs low and faint. Mountain folk pay particular heed to this. They choose campsites bathed in the most abundant sunlight. A few hours of direct rays warm the walls. This is enough to alter the night's chill. Historians still debate whether trappers favored sun-minus drenched or sheltered spots. Old texts often mention sheltering hollows. Others recall high huts built to chase the sun. Standing here, you feel you could touch that argument. Sunlight or shelter, warmth or wind's shadow. In this wilderness, nothing is simple. Your breath flows softly before you. You shift your stance, scanning once more, listening to the winds howl upon the ridge. They sound long and dreamlike, as if someone murmured in your ear. It gently pushes the tops of the pines, their tips quivering faintly. You watch their rhythmic sway. Trees always tell tales. Thick trunks hint at winter's long. Thick bark heralds bitter, lingering cold. Your trunk stands straight and sturdy, an auspicious sign. This land seldom suffers ravages. A gentle slope leads to a small clearing, embraced by pines and spruces. You approach slowly. Your boots sink into soft snow. Kneeling, your gloved hand presses into the surface. Cold seeps through the fabric, yet you feel something else. The snow lies evenly spread. No strange hollows or hidden voids. This means the ground is level, unbroken by roots or rock. An ideal foundation for building. You rise and take a deep breath. A faint echo comes from your right. The drip of water beneath the ice. Following the sound, you see a slender winter stream, narrow enough to step across. You're promising a year minus round, unceasing water short. Mountain folk cherish proximity to water, yet shun excessive closeness. Build by the river's edge, and floods and ice flows become calamities. Stand too far from the stream and daily toil becomes exhausting. Your gaze drifts between the stream and the clearing in the woods. This distance is just right, neither too far nor too near. You tilt your head back slightly, allowing the air to settle around you, listening for any anomaly. A warning in the wind, the tremble of a branch, all seems unremarkable. Only here, serene and crisp, permeated by a profound stillness. You walk along the edge of the clearing, measuring the boundary with measured steps, each step compacting the snow. You imagine the same sound, echoing beneath the feet of ancient hunters. Suddenly, a flash streaks across your vision. Small animal tracks wind across the clearing, delicate and orderly, likely left by a hare. The trail leads to the stream, then turns back into the woods. This sight brings a faint smile to your lips. Animals always choose the safest path. If wildlife dwells here, this area is sound and reliable. Early hunters observed animal habits. They may not have shared this knowledge with each other. Wisdom needs no proud proclamation. You pause in the clearing center, allowing yourself to fully feel the air, closing your eyes for a moment, listening to the profound stillness around you. No tumbling rocks, no sudden precipices, no hidden marshes beneath the snow. The earth is steady and dependable, as if possessed of its own perception. You open your eyes, envisioning where a cottage might stand, slowly turning your body, weighing angles and lines. Before timber touches the ground, something settles within, a growing certainty. This is what the mountain dweller seeks. Not perfection, but balance. Wind that can be harnessed, sunlight that can be embraced, water near yet revered, earth steadfast through winter's grip, rear slopes guarding like ramparts. The forest clearing unfolds like a front garden. The stream adds both scenery and convenience. Each detail feels like an answer, responding to questions you never voiced. You take one last slow walk, touching the trunk of a nearby tree. The grain is coarse, resin crystallized into prisms, frozen into tiny amber beads. You press your palm against a tree, feeling the cold life beneath the bark. This land appears to slumber, yet beneath the surface, life thrives. It gazes upon you as you gaze upon it. You turn towards the glade, exhaling softly. White mist swirls in the bitter wind. The cold may win some battles, but wise choices grant you hope. Now you finally understand. This land was vital to your forebears. Without wise choices, no skill could have saved it. You step back, then another. Your boot tips retrace the path. The glade waits, and understanding settles deep. You've chosen the spot. Now to see what followed. Slowly you return to the clearing. Cold seeps through your cuff. Snow quietly blankets your boots. The site is chosen. Now turn to resources. The seasoned woodsman knows site selection is the first step. The second is to read the land like a master. No need for rulers or blueprints. No luxury of trial and error. You stand still for a moment. Your gaze sweeps over trees, stones, and earth. All will become parts of the hut. You approach the nearest pine. Your palm presses against the trunk. The bark is hard and brittle, cold enough to stiffen even gloves. You tap the wood with your knuckles. The resonance is deep and full. Mountain folk listen for such echoes. A hollow sound foretells disaster. Worm minus cetum, or rot within, likely to split or collapse. A deprisonment is a silent promise. This trunk may serve as be more wall. You move to another tree. It stands taller, more profound. Branches bend beneath the weight of snow. You examine the clustered needles. Their hue a healthy emerald green, brushing away the snow. Inspecting scars on the lower trunk. Early hunters debated bark thickness. Historians still argue spruce or pine. Some text praise pine for its straight grain. Others claim spruce resists decay better. As you examine the trees, the arguments still echo. But you trust your instincts. You desire the tactile freshness of straight logs. You venture deeper into the forest edge. Here the ground slopes gently. Stones scatter like small islands. You crouch beside one, touch its rough surface. The rock is icy and solid, evoking a sense of stability. Known historical fact prove rather useful. Pioneers built hearths of stone. Stone withstands the fiercest flames. A solid stone hearth signifies safety, the dividing line between warmth and tragedy. Love. You pick up a small stone, feel its weight, densened deep in texture, surely rich in iron. You imagine it stacked with others, how it anchors the warmest corner. You gently place it back. You press on. The snow beneath your feet gives a faint crunch. A breeze sweeps through the treetop, carrying the scent of sap and cold minerals. You pause to inhale deeply. Your breath escapes as white vapor, drifting ahead like a private little mist. In this stillness, your ears catch a faint sound. A distant tapping echoes from the deep woods. Perhaps a woodpecker, perhaps a scraping within fallen timber. A sudden thought. Mountain folk once claimed they could predict storms by the volume of a woodpecker's drum. Quite intriguing. Yet now, any clue is precious. Your gaze falls upon a fallen trunk, half minus buried beneath the snow. You brush away frost minus covered snowflakes. Your fingertips trace the exposed grain, examining the patterns of the growth rings. The texture is dense, even, and smooth. Such timber, once dried, could form sturdy walls. Gloved, you press the wood's surface. It feels solid, yet resilient, neither soft nor brittle. You nod to yourself. At last you understand why the mountain folk inspect each tree with mere minus obsessive detail. Choosing the wrong timber meant labor in vain, and labor in vain could cost you warmth, or even endanger your life. You continued along the gentle slope, mindful of the ground beneath your boots. Gravelly soil could serve as foundation, but too many stones would make the base unstable. Soft earth was easy to work with, yet might shift dangerously in the spring-fall. You locate a patch of firm earth. Beneath the faint snow, you lightly kick the surface. Brown clods reveal themselves. You rub the soil between your fingers, dense with decaying leaf litter. This is the sure sign of solid ground, not a hidden bog. You rise and survey. Boulders encircle the forest clearing, as if lying dormant for centuries, untouched by the changing seasons. Their presence offers not merely structural support, but acts as a natural windbreak, subtle guardians shaping microclimates. Mountain folk understand such landmarks, turning the earth into silent allies. You approach a boulder, pressing your palm flat against its surface. The rock is rough yet steadfast, reassuring. You imagine how this stone reflects heat, or shields a log cabin's side from chill. Rarely does one regard rock as an ally. Yet in this wilderness, all things serve a purpose. A bird skims overhead. Lightly alights upon a branch. You look up, watch it ruffle its feathers against the chill. Its tiny claws grip the twig with steadfast hold. Such birds always circle near sustenance in winter, another mark of life thriving here. Now you explore with greater care, stopping every few paces, to touch a tree, to gauge its height, to tap its trunk. to record in your mind. That pine, too twisted. That spruce, leaning too far. That fir, seemingly perfect, yet clinging to the slope, where snow might slide. Each observation deepens your perception of this land. You retrace your steps to the fallen trunk, lift a small patch of bark, revealing a smooth, pale layer beneath. You trace its surface, letting the grain seep into your heart. Pioneers often stripped bark for roof lining or insulation. Old journals mention boiling strips to make them pliable for binding and patching. This practical wisdom fascinates you. You imagine yourself recreating the scene. Snowflakes drifting down as bark simmers over the hearth. A crisp crackle echoes behind you. You whirl round, merely a branch shaking off snow. The sound lingers through the woods, a small reminder. Nature never explains her ways. You breathe steadily, the air crisp and full of life. You venture deeper into the woods. Now you study the spacing between the trunks. Well-judged gaps make felling easier. Overcrowded thickets risk shifting logs. You examine the arrangement of the trunks, nodding at the clear felling path. Several straight pines stand ready for cutting. This land seems to have laid itself out, simply to lend you a hand. You chuckle softly, marveling at the wilderness's generosity. As you approach with reverence, you retrace your steps to the stone circle. This time, you observe the hues of the stones more closely. Some stones shimmer with a pale blue sheen, hinting at rich mineral deposits. Others reveal streaks of gold and red, traces of the mountain's geological depths. Mountain folk often elect specific stones for their even heat retention or crack-minus resistant properties. You imagine building a hearth with these stones, feeling the lingering warmth long after the embers die. As you stroll, your thoughts drift too, the rhythm of labor soon to begin. The swing of axe blades, the dull thud of felled timber, the scraping of bark removal. Yet this silent survey is vital now. You are learning the land's temperament. You are forging a partnership with the natural materials sustaining life. You step upon the raised mound. One last glance across the forest clearing. Trees stand tall and still. Stones rest undisturbed. Gentle slopes shield against the north wind. All things harmonize. All things speak the same language. You raise your hand, brush snow from your cuffs. A faint smile touches your lips, recalling the mountain folk's present state. Resolution mingles with release. Urgency weaves through gratitude. Now you to feel this connection. Breathing slowly, you turn back, towards the heart of the forest. Behind you, trees and stones remain, awaiting the next cycle of labor. As you step forward, your boots sink into soft snowdrifts. You carry knowledge of this land, prepared to shape it into a warm dwelling, a sturdy refuge, a fortress strong enough to withstand the harshest winter. You stand in the forest clearing, purpose clear, but before erecting walls or pressing matters demand attention. The chill whispers stark truths. Without fire, no nest can be built. The mountain folk understood this upon first arrival. Now you feel the same instinct awaken. You tighten your gloves, exhaling a wisp of white mist. Begin searching the ground for materials that will become the first spark. You crouch beneath a spruce. Its branches droop, heavy with glistening needles. Beneath the canopy, the snow has thinned, revealing a bed of dry needles. You gather a handful, feeling their brittle texture. These will burn, but need aid. You probe deeper into the shadows, and discover paper minus thin strips of bark, curled like miniature scrolls. The frontier journal once mentioned how trappers used thinner birch bark, or resin minus rich slivers of pine, to kindle their earliest campfires. You rub the bark between your palms, and inhale the pungent, rich sap. Even through the chill, the scent brims with hope. You gather more materials, pencil minus thin twigs, crackling lengths of wood, dried deadwood beneath the canopy, each piece bearing its tale, some scarred by ancient storms, others etched with patterns by hungry insects. You carry them tucked under your arm, listening to your coat creak, the crisp crunch of boots on the snow. When the woodpile is full enough, you turn back, kneel in the clearing's center. Above, the sky has turned a pale silver minus blue. Light filters through frost crystals. You dig a small circle in the snow, dark earth revealed, the ground cold enough to numb fingertips. You lay the materials in a loose nest, twigs piled into a cone, bark laid beneath, movements deliberate, breath settling into a steady rhythm. In this wilderness, kindling a fire is never a hasty affair, but a dialogue between you and the elements. You reach for the flint, cold making your fingertips tremble slightly, pressing against the metal edge. You strike the stone with a sharp flick. Golden sparks burst forth like tiny explosions. Before reaching the bark, they vanish. You adjust your posture, lowering the fire starter's angle, attempting once more. This time, sparks settle and flicker, igniting the resin. You lean close, blowing softly. Embers grow brighter, flickering with fragile life. Wispy smoke curls and rises, like a drowsy, ghostly apparition. You continue to nurture it with gentle breaths, until the flame is born, flickering unhesitant. A warm current pierces your chest, subtle yet potent. The flame spreads slowly, licking the bark, then devouring the twigs. You add fuel cautiously. Too much would smother the fire. You position the sticks with precision, calmly adjusting their angle. As the small fire grows stronger, warmth reaches your palms, like the first friendly greeting of the morning. Historians have recorded such moments. Early woodcutters regarded kindling a fire, both as a craft and a ritual. For them, fire meant survival, meant drying frozen garments, melting snow into sweet water, cooking meat before it congealed. Gazing at the lengthening flames, you suddenly understand those accounts. A curious tale surfaces in your mind. A hunter insisted pine resin burns, even on rainy days, if first chewed and molded into sticky balls to kindle. Whether this method works remains unknown, but the image makes you smile. You rise on tiptoe, sitting upright, palms turned towards the rising warmth. The sensation spreads instantly across your skin, seeping through gloves. Breath curls upwards, trace spirals above the flames. The cold no longer feels like an enemy, more like a stern teacher, demanding your full attention, and you give it. Today's scholars still debate the earliest fire miner starting tools, debate whether flint and steel always prevailed, or if new methods swiftly spread. What is the truth? You realize the specific tools matter far less than the resolve behind them. Only those who never give up earn the flame's response. Now you add thick logs, arranging them slowly. The tongues of flame leap with greater intensity. Heat washes over your legs, and your shoulder blades gradually relax. For the first time since dawn, you shift your weight, sitting upon a fallen log half-minus buried in snow. Warmth begins to thaw your stiffened fingertips. As the fire grows, the forest clearing transforms silently. Trees no longer inspired red. Branches no longer hang like suspended blades. They merely watch in stillness. Stones glimmer faintly in the brightening light. Shadows dance upon the snow. The flames cast long, swaying shadows. The entire world seems to respond to the fire's presence, as if acknowledging you are more than a passing traveler. You glance towards the forest's edge. Smoke curls and rises, then drifts sideways with the wind. Smoke too is a storyteller. Its flow reveals their current worlds. Its speed foretells the weather's turn. You learn to read the vapors like the mountain folk. When the smoke column rises steadily then spirals east, it signifies air is still, an auspicious omen for work to begin. You draw an arrow once more, stretch out your hands, draw in every thread of warmth. The burning wood crackles softly. Each crackle marks progress. You pry up a block of snow from the ground and hold it close to the fire. You watch the snow melt into droplets, sliding through your fingers. A quiet contentment washes over you. This fire can warm food, heat stones for bedding, boil water, or light a lantern. It is the foundation of all that lies ahead. In this soft glow, your thoughts drift to practical needs. The hearth entering the cabin must be sturdy enough to store heat, yet designed to let smoke escape freely. If it fails, smoke will backflow, choking the air, staining the walls. You recall the stones surveyed earlier, envisioning them carefully stacked. To build a hearth that can withstand the winter's chill, you rise from the fallen logs. You pace slowly around the campfire, observing the flames from every angle. Shadows dance upon the snow, stretching and contracting with the rhythm. As though living beings, you pause behind the hearth, allowing warmth to caress your spine. The temperature from this angle is gentler, more distant. You close your eyes, listening to the breath of the flame, recalling the details from the winter guidebook. The author wrote the fairest flame murmurs, not roars. The murmuring flame crackles softly, burning steadily. It gives warmth without spitting spark. The roaring flame bursts and screams, chaotic and disordered, only when the wood is too damp or stacked amiss. You smile at this meal. You listen intently to your own fire. It murmurs softly, satisfied. You kneel once more, at a fume or logged. The flames grow stronger, painting ripples of heat in the air. Your cheeks warm, your shoulders relax, your mind settles. Fire is the earliest shelter. Before walls, before roofs, before the caulking, before the chimney. The mountain folk use fire to scorch and soften the wilderness's edge. Now you feel this warmth seeping into your bones. The work ahead will be harder, felling, planing, raising beams. But kneeling before this newly kindled hearth gives you courage to press on. You draw breath slowly, letting it blend with the morning air. The flames stand firm, lightened assured. You rise, brushing snow from your knees, treasuring the lingering warmth within, preparing to embrace the true labor of building this clearing into a home. You rise from the embers' warmth, the chill closing in once more, not hostile, yet relentless. It reminds you this warmth is fleeting. The true defense against winter's bite lies not only in the flames, but in the tools that shape a home. Those who dwell in the mountains and forests know this well. Without fine implements, a log cabin is but a hollow shell. The axe blade must cleave cleanly. The saw teeth must not waver. The knife edge must hold its sharpness in the cold. You step away from the fire. Your resolve grows steadier. The next stage invites you into the world of simple tools and the profound skill required to master them. You kneel beside a fallen log, clutching your pack close to your chest, where an axe lies dormant. Its wooden handle, gripped over years, has worn smooth. You lift it carefully, letting its weight settle in your palm. The balance feels steady and familiar, even after carrying it but a moment. History's record. Hunters often spent weeks crafting or modifying axe handles to mold them to shoulder-fitting grip. An unbalanced axe is a curse, threatening fingertips, shins, and every vital muscle. You test the edge, gloved thumb tracing the blade's edge through leather, its sharpness still felt. Such a blade could easily bite into frozen wood, surprisingly effortlessly. You swing it once or twice, letting the tool whistle in the cold wind. The motion awakens your arms and shoulder blades. Blood surges through stiff muscle. A small spruce stands to the left, its branches drooping under heavy snow. You run your fingertips along a twig. The wood is solid, slightly resilient, full of life. Though unsuitable for a main beam, it is perfect for tool handles, dowels, and small components. You pick up a nearby broken branch, bend it to test its strength. It resists stubbornly for a moment, then snaps with a crisp crack, both pieces of wood falling into the snow. Every sound he echoes with a clear, crisp resonance, with an almost ritualistic solemnity. Though the mountain toolkit is rudimentary, each implement serves multiple purposes. The axe for felling timber, the chisel for shaping, the plane for stripping bark. They drill for boring holes, surveying the forest clearing. Scenes of labor emerge in your mind. A fine timber house requires not merely brute strength, but a profound understanding of the tools at hand. Resting the axe handle against your shoulder, you approach a pine with a straight trunk. You observe how sunlight filters through the bark, revealing layers upon layers of grain. Like caramelized and smoked growth rings, you extend your hand and tap lightly with your knuckles. A deep resonance echoes back. You nod to yourself. This is precisely the tree species treasured by mountain folk. Tall enough to yield long timber, straight enough to split without warping, sturdy enough to store heat within the walls. Frontier Diaries record. Many hunters choose nearby trees. Whose trunks soar without low branches, forming natural beams, patiently carved by time and competition. Before swinging the first axe blow, you test the snow beneath your feet. Your boot sinks slightly yet finds firm ground. Trees stand upon stable earth. When they fall, it should be as intended. Wind direction is also crucial. You tilt your head back slightly, feeling the breeze brush your cheek. It rises lightly from the west, sufficient to guide the fall, yet not so sudden as to catch you off guard. You step back, rotate your shoulders, grip the axe handle firmly, draw a deep breath, allowing the cold air to fill your lungs, then swing the axe. The blade strikes the bark with a dull thud. The vibration travels up your arm. Wood chips fly in pale arcs, falling like flakes onto the snow. You swing the axe again and again, seeking the rhythm familiar to mountain folk. The sound echoes across the forest clearing, regular as a simple drumbeat, marking the passage of daylight. He rises beneath your layers as you labor. Breathing grows heavier, transforming into denser, mist drifting into the cold. Each stroke cleaves a precise wedge from the trunk. The groove deepens, slow and resolute. Occasionally you pause to clear the chips, allowing the scent of fresh sap to waft away. That fragrance, sweet and sharp, intimately bound to the winter wood. There exists a peculiar oral tradition that hunters believe in the depths of winter. The scent of sap is an auspicious sign, signifying the wood's purity and the earth's acceptance of their presence. Whether true or not, you inhale the fragrance with gratitude and continue chopping until the front cut reaches the desired angle. You circle to the other side of the trunk and begin carving the finishing cut. Snowflakes drifting from the branches accompany the soft rustling. Each axe blow elicits a faint groan from the trunk, like the weary sigh of a dying beast. Amidst the labor, thoughts drift to another debate among historians. Some scholars still disagree on the precise form of ancient mountain tools. Certain texts describe long minus-handled axes with narrow blades. Others mention broad minus-bladed tool heads, designed specifically for splitting heavy logs. Even today, academia strives to piece together the daily lives of those whose existence remains undocumented. Amid scholarly debates over minutiae, the core truth remains unmistakable. It was these very tools that made survival possible. Upon this unforgiving land, you raise the axe once more, delivering a powerful blow. A deep crack echoes across the forest clearing. The trunk trembles. You retreat to safety. The tree sways hesitantly, finally begins to slowly topple. Snowflakes drift down like cotton wool. Branches sway, ultimately crashing down with a long, rumbling roar. The echo pierces the entire forest. Silence descends. You exhale a long breath, only then realizing you've been holding it. The fallen giant lies sprawled across the snowfield, like a sleeping beast. You approach with solemn reverence. Gloved hands trace the bark. The trunk's jewel seeps into your palms. This tree shall become walls and beams. It will bear warmth, withstand storms, become your barrier against winter's long nights. You clench your fist lightly, accepting life straight for shelter. But one tree is never enough. Building a cottage requires countless logs. Each must be precisely cut and meticulously hewn. You approach the roots of the fallen trunk. You nail with the saw. You measure the first section. The teeth bite into the wood with steady rhythm. Scraping sounds and humming accompany the swinging arm. Sawdust coats your gloves, floating in the dim light like golden powder. You work slowly, allowing the motion to warm your shoulders and back. The chill no longer pierces, but becomes a companion in the background, the silent, watchful sword. As you grow familiar with this land, the teeth pierce the wood, advancing steadily. When the storm arcs in, the first log rolls down with a soft thud. You straighten your spine, arms raised high, stretching. Breath swirls above your head, pausing to survey the forest clearing. The campfire still smolders quietly. Morning light glows softly upon the snowdrift. Bird song echoes from the pine canopy. The world balances in that instant. Between labor and reward, you turn to the next cut, then the next. With each piece of timber removed, you draw nearer to the warmth of home. A fine sheen of sweat beads upon your back. In the chill, droplets freeze. You often pause to slip off your gloves and hold your hands above the flame, drawing warmth before returning to the task. Cutting, shaping, hulling. This is the rhythm of building. It tires the muscles, yet imbues them with purpose. This labor connects you directly to the experience of the early settlers. No machines to ease the toil, no shortcuts to share the burden. Each beam you lift stands as a testament to will and endurance. By the time you've prepared several long logs, your body is enveloped in warmth. You straighten, taking a deep breath, watching steam rise gently from your coat. This clearing now resembles a workshop, not carved by the harsh winter, but by your growing strength. Tools lie quietly beside you. Metal glints faintly in the snow. New scratches on the axe handle, marked by the friction of gloves. Fine sawdust glitters between the teeth. You nod with satisfaction. These humble implements are the very pulse of building. Without them, the forest remains untamed. With them, you carve out peace and warmth. You gather your tools and return to the hearth. The crackling welcomes you gently, like a post-minus labor embrace. You stretch your hands once more towards the flames, allowing warmth to seep deep into your bones. Closing your eyes for a moment, listening to the wind's low murmur and the fading echo of the felled tree. The next stages will demand greater effort, but you are prepared. The tools have awakened. The earth has yielded its materials, and you stand in the quiet afterglow, feeling the first genuine spark of shelter take shape in your mind. You step away from the fire once more, breathing in the cold air. Your boots sink into the snow, emitting a soft, rhythmic crunch. The logs you felled lie scattered, like sleeping giants, their bark darkened by frost and set. At this moment, the mountain folk instinctively understand. The first log must be laid with care. A cabin does not begin with walls or roof, but is founded upon the timber frame. Precise positioning, ensuring every subsequent step relies upon this foundation. You walk to the center of the clearing, preparing to test strength and patience. Beneath the thin snow, the ground is firm. Nailing, gloves on, you brush away the surface layer, revealing frozen earth mixed with fine roots, and winter minus hardened, withered grass. You widen the path until a hazy rectangle forms in your mind. This will be the footprint of the cabin, neither wide nor long. Mountain dwellings are often compact, for small spaces retain warmth more easily, while large structures demand laborious transport. Many historical accounts mention log cabins, no larger than a humble room, barely sufficient for shelter, cooking, mending gear, and storage. You tread along invisible boundaries, weighing each step. The soles of your boots sense the slope, the wind's direction, and sunlight piercing through treetops. Silent sage your contemplation. You pick up 2 long logs, thick as thighs, their saw marks still core. Press one end into the snow, lift the other, until the entire log rests across your shoulders. The weight sinks into your bones, anchoring your muscles to the earth. Advancing cautiously, you carry the first log across the clearing. It skims the ground behind you, leaving a crooked trail in the snow. You set it down gently, adjusting its angle so it doesn't tilt towards the slope, calibrating the level by eye alone. This is the unhesitating skill of mountain folk, their eyes transformed into measuring instruments, hammered into shape by years of winter, to avoid the cold wind's assault. Before placing the second log, you kneel beside the first, tapping its surface with knuckles, the sound steady and firm. According to multiple pioneer records, early log cabins were often built on logs, slightly planed on one side only. To prevent rolling, you draw an axe from your pet, raise it high above your shoulder, swinging it down in a precise arc. Bark fragments scatter. Each strike of the timber curls, pale and fragrant. You repeat the motion, smoothing the timber's underside, forging a sturdy foundation. Not far off, the woodpecker taps rhythmically upon a trunk. Its crisp echoes ripple through the woods. You pause to listen, startled by how silently the forest embraces your labor. A curious tale circulates among the mountain settlements. It is said that if a woodpecker is drumming while you build your house, it signifies the earth's approval of your chosen site. You smile at this superstition, yet the gentle tapping remains uplifting. Now you pick up the second log, slightly slimmer but straighter. Your hands ache faintly from earlier labor, but you ignore the sting, placing the log beside the first, adjusting its position again and again, until both stand perfectly straight and parallel, the gap between them marking the width of the cottage floor. Snow lies untouched within the demarcation. Soon this space will hold a hearth, bedding, tools, and all the warmth you can create. You continue with the axe, trimming the underside of the second log. The blade cuts into the wood with a satisfying rhythm, which shavings scatter across your boots. Amidst the labor, your thoughts drift to a long-minus unresolved question. Contemporary scholars often debate. Some experts still explore whether the earliest settlers preferred mortise minus and minus tenon joints from the outset, or simpler saddle joints. Different regions favored different styles. Existing architectural forms vary greatly. You realize in this wilderness, the optimal solution is solely that which withstands wind, snow, and the test of time. You grasp the chisel, begin marking the groove positions. In the cold light, the wood grain glistens faintly. You carve slowly, feeling the blades tip pierce layer upon layer of timber. That supple resistance. Each carved groove becomes a guide, directing how the logs interlock. Breaths turn to wisps of smoke, rising gently. The surrounding silence deepens. Only the occasional flutter of wings, or the distant murmur of trees, stir beneath the snow. When the grooves are carved, you fetch a shorter piece of timber, testing its fit at the corner. It's slightly askew. You lift it once more, trim a sliver from the groove, attempt it again. This time it fits perfectly, snug against the timber below, as though a jigsaw piece born for this moment. You pause briefly, letting contentment settle within. A perfect mortise and tenon joint like shaking hands with the earth, steadfast and assured. Now the cottage takes shape. A rectangle formed by 4 logs, signaling the building's inception. You circle slowly, examining lines and angles, observing the shadows cast within the snow-minus white outline. The air within the boundaries feels colder, as if the future walls have already taken shape, enveloping the winter within. You kneel on one knee upon a foundation log, taking a brief rest. A pleasant warmth radiates through your muscles, warm from labor despite the morning chill. In the distance, the hearth crackles softly. The warmth, though faint, remains beyond reach, yet its very presence brings solace. Your palm glides over the log beneath you. The bark is rough yet solid, its vertical ridges forming natural grips. You envision the cottage walls rising layer by layer, eventually supporting your own little world. Add the next pair of timbers. Repeat the same cycle. Lift, adjust, chisel, test minus fit. Each timber finds its precise place. Confidence grows daily. Your hands move with increasing fluidity. Your body adapts to the weight. A rhythm gradually forms, almost a meditative state. The chill becomes a hazy backdrop. Soon the foundations take shape. The timber stacks rise waist-minus high. The logs are stacked with precision, their interlocking joints unbreakable. Snow gathers softly. At the corners where timber meets earth, you scrape the snow away, knowing dampness is the enemy of new build. The cottage's outline slowly emerges, its finer details revealed. You begin to notice light filtering through the timber's gaps, dancing across the snow in slender golden stripes. The air within the foundation stands still. The rising walls block the chill wind. Standing in the center, the forest clearing feels different. Through the nascent framework, more intimate, more familiar. As the breeze shifts, a chill runs up your spine. You step outside the frame, wrapping your coat tighter. The low sun still shines bright, casting the long shadow of the timber beam. You pause to rub your hands together, warming numb fingertips with friction. Then return to the task, lifting another long, heavy beam. You rest it against your shoulder. The familiar ache spreads, shouldering it towards the rising wall. You begin to chisel mortise and tenon joints. Beads of sweat trickle down your shoulder blades. The chill remains unabated, yet your movements grow ever more deliberate, selling smooth grooves to seat the beam securely. When the beam settles precisely, it fits perfectly, its weight pressing into the structure. With a sense of belonging, you tap lightly with the back of your axe to secure it. A hollow, muffled thud steadfast and assured. You step back to survey the progress. The foundation logs, following their natural grade, slightly curved, bestowing the structure with rugged elegance. Corners interlock like ancient teeth. The cabin rises with silent resolve, much like those forest folk, your ancestors who built shelters before you. A wilderness surveys the surrounding, gazing in silent contemplation. Ravens circle high, occasionally cawing, as if applauding your labor. A breeze brushes the treetops, stirring the drifting snowflakes, like embers scattered from a dying hearth. You wipe the sweat from your brow with your sleeve, and draw in a deep breath. The scent of fresh sap lingers in the air. Your arms ache. Your breathing is heavy, yet your spirit feels steady and grounded. The first log is in place. The cabin's outline begins to take shape. You stand within its shadow, knowing this is only the beginning. You stand within the gradually forming timber frame, surrounded by neatly arranged logs. Cold air swirls through the gaps, quietly seeping into the cracks. At this moment, the mountain folk focus intently on this laborious yet crucial task. The cabin may stand tall and proud, but if the biting wind finds its way through the crevices, all their hard work will be in vain. You survey the gaps between the logs, feeling the icy draft. Brush the palms of your hands. It is time to caulk the joints. You kneel at the base of the wall, trace your fingers along a crevice, narrow in appearance, yet deep enough to let the cold wind blow straight through. The mountain folk fill these gaps with nature's bounty. Moss clay, dry grass, shredded bark, moss clay, dry grass, bark chips, bundles of animal hair. Any material that binds and sets can forge a barrier against the bitter cold. You rise, brushing snow from your knees, and begin gathering materials. Around clearing, beneath the shade of towering spruce trees, you discover a thick bed of moss, sheltered from the harshest frost. You crouch, gently lifting its resilient texture, cool yet supple, stripping long strands of moss, binding them into bundles. According to frontier records, moss's value lies in its slight expansion when dry, filling gaps more tightly than other materials. Its insulation proving unexpectedly effective, forming a natural cushion, trapping warm air within. You cup a handful to your cheek, inhale its earthy scent. Imagine it soon becoming the hidden layer of warmth behind wooden walls. Then seek fibers to bind the moss. In wooded glades, discover strips of bark, naturally peeled from fallen trunks. Gently tug to test its resilience. Bends without snapping excellent. Gather more, coiling them loosely. Lift a particularly slender strand, recalling strange winter tales from remote hunting communities. Of a peculiar winter legend, some loggers firmly believed bark harvested in winter held a silent resilience that strengthened log cabins. Superstition, certainly, yet you cannot deny the bark's touch. Sturdy and dependable, blending into your palm. You approach dense, low-growing shrubs. Tall withered grasses protrude from the snow, like frozen ribbons. You gather several bundles of grass, snapping off the brittle tips, binding the stalks into sheaves. This withered grass will serve as filler, stuffing the tiniest crevices. Before pressing the moss into place, you rub the grass stems between your fingers, listening to their faint whisper. That sound is reassuring, as if nature itself were silently supporting your labor. With armfuls of grass, you return to the log cabin frame, set down the bundled stalks, warm your hands by the fire, before beginning the next delicate task. Once your fingers regain their dexterity, you kneel beside the lowest crack in the wall, push the dry grass into the crevice. The stems bend and twist, forming a soft cushion. You lay moss upon it, using your thumb and the blunt edge of the knife handle to press the moss into the crevice. Each push slightly expands it. This task is slow, repetitive, and wearying, yet utterly indispensable. If the gaps remain unfilled, heat will escape, and cold air will seep in with sharp determination. You move to the next crevice and repeat the process. First lay the grass, then cover with moss, with bark strips to reinforce and bind. Each action brims with purpose. Every press of your palm deepens your bond with the structure. A breeze sweeps through the forest clearing, tickling the nape of your neck. You lift your gaze to the tree line, seeing snow on distant branches slips ironly away. The forest responds to all things, even the slightest shift. This awareness recalls words read long ago. Researchers spent years documenting the construction techniques of early mountain cabins, comparing extant structures with ancient letters and notes. Scholars held divergent views on the mountain dwellers' insulation methods. Some insist they stuff thick moss between every two logs, concerning the insulating materials used by the mountain folk. Some maintain they laid thick moss, layer upon layer between each log. Others argue mud or clay was primarily relied upon, with moss serving merely as an auxiliary material. This debate remains unresolved, yet whilst deliberating, one comes to realize practicality far outweighs preference. Using locally sourced materials to their fullest, working upwards along the wall, stuffing moss into every crevice. Sap stains the gloves, green smears appear on the cuffs. The work tires the hands, but progress lifts the spirits. As each gap closes, you imagine the biting winter wind. Finding no entry, you picture yourself seated by the hearth on a silent winter night, feeling warmth encircle your shoulders, all because of this moment's toil. While encountering particularly wide gaps, you weave several strips of bark into sturdy braids, press them firmly into the crevices, then cover with moss. The braids prove surprisingly sturdy. You lean into press and reinforce. The touch is solid and dependable. You smile to yourself, marveling at how ordinary materials, shaped by intention, can become so resilient. Rising to stretch your back, you step outside the cabin's frame, surveying the work's progress. The wall's texture now distinct, dotted with green and brown, moss and bark. Sunlight glints off the damp surface, trailing soft light along the log. You notice the walls breathe differently now. Where cold winds once swept freely, the hut feels more tranquil, more sheltering, more complete. You turn to the other side and begin anew. Your movements grow fluid. You tear off strips of moss without looking. One hand twists the fibers, the other fills the crevices. As you labor, your breath condenses into soft clouds suspended in the air. The gloves soon cut to the bone. You pause only briefly to warm them by the firelight, then return to the steady rhythm of sealing the wall seams. A low murmur from the woods is faintly audible. Behind you, the hearth crackles softly. The labor's rhythm borders on meditation. Soon you reach the upper wooden deck. The gaps grow narrower, yet you continue to fill them meticulously, for even the tiniest crack could ruin your labor. As winter's night begins its assault, you press the final tuft of moss into the crevice, smoothing its edges. A sense of accomplishment washes over you like a warm current, settling deep within your chest. You retreat into the timber frame to survey once more. The wind's voice is faint now, like a soft whisper, rather than a sharp intrusion. You walk slowly around the foundations, feeling the air stagnate in corners, flow gently along the walls. The space already feels warm, as if the cabin responds to your care. You press your palm against a crack, testing its firmness. The moss remains utterly still. The bark strips taut as ever. The walls appear orderly, almost protective. Outside the window, a crow caws from the treetops. Its shrill proclamation shatters the silence. You look up to see it hopping along the branches, its feathers puffed up against the cold. It turns its head towards your cabin, as if inspecting its handiwork, then spreads its wings and flies away. Across the forest clearing, you watch it vanish into the trees. Turning back to your work, a faint smile touches your lips. The walls now feel tighter, more solid. The caulking may be inconspicuous, yet it transforms a draughty timber frame into a true home. Now, for the first time since entering the frozen wilderness, the cottage offers you a place where warmth can well. You retreat indoors. Your gaze falls upon the firewall, where the heart of the home shall soon rise. Warm shelter begins with sturdy walls, but a truly habitable refuge requires something deeper. The mountain folk's cabin, though small, is sturdy, yet the most painstaking creation is the hearth. Its flames warm meals, dry clothes, and light the night. They ensure the long, dark winter cannot consume them wholly. Without a dependable hearth, even the most tightly built log cabin would grow cold and lifeless. You turn to the stone pile you stacked earlier, a quiet hope stirring within. The stones lie at the edge of the forest clearing, half covered in a thin frost. You approach them slowly. Your gloves brush the surface. The chill stings your fingertip, but the stones are steady and dependable. You examine each one's shape. Some are flat, as thick granite pancakes. Others were heavy and uneven, suitable as sturdy foundations for a hearth base. According to research in old trade journals, preserved in ancient guild records, mountain folk favored stones that withstood intense heat without shattering. They sought dense, weighty varieties, resistant to fracturing. You lift one to test its weight, a slide taking your wrist. Perfect. You begin sorting the stones by shape and size. Flat ones to one side, massive blocks to the other, medium-size stones neatly stacked in between. This silent organization takes on an almost ritualistic quality, as if preparing tools for a ceremony. You kneel beside the largest stone, scrape away the surface frost. Beneath the icy rock, smooth grey stone reveals itself. When your knuckles tap lightly, a deep, steady thud echoes. You nod silently. This shall become a solid foundation. A breeze brushes past your back. You lift your gaze. A fallen leaf tumbles across the snow. Its amber hue glows vividly against the white. It glides to a halt at your feet. An old frontier tale surfaces in your mind, of gatherings on long winter nights, where hunters recounted how they read the omens in fallen leaves, guiding them to find the finest hearthstone. Though lacking scientific basis, the tales linger in memory with wondrous charm. You gently lift the leaf, letting it fall again, watching it drift towards the future hearth side. You return to your labor, before moving heavy stones. Clear the hearth's landing plea. Kneel to scrape away the snow. until broad patches of dark earth are exposed, frozen soil stiff as an unbroken plate. You hack at it with the spade's edge until the earth crumbles to create a level foundation, ensuring neither roots nor nevins will displace the stones. You smooth the soil with your palms, forming a firm, even bed that feels solid beneath your hands. With the ground prepared, you grasp the first foundation stone, its icy surface piercing through your gloves. You brace yourself and lift it slowly, a short breath escaping between your lips. Muscles tremble slightly under the weight. You carry the stone to the wall's foundation, placing it carefully into position. Once steady, you nudge it lightly with your boot, ensuring it sits firmly, the sound of stone meeting earth, dull and resolute. Then you select the second, the third, along the future hearth's base, building a rough arch. You nudge each stone into place, until it sits flush against its neighbor. These stones must bear the full weight of the future blazing fire. Thus the positioning of each stone is critical. You pause, sitting back on your heels, to survey the overall outline. It appears uneven. You gently shift the stones better. Experts studying early frontier craftsmanship note, no two mountain hearths are alike, each shaped from locally sourced stone, molded to the builder's hand. No measurements, no standardized blueprints, only instinct and keen eye. Now you finally understand. Continue arranging the stones. Each must fit with perfect precision. You pick up a medium-sized stone, slotting it into the gap between foundation stone. The crevice silently vanishes under pressure. Then place another, a flatter one, pressing it with supple force into the gradually rising stone wall. As they cling tightly together, a wisp of cold air rises. The stone wall stretches upward slowly, like the first steps of a snow miner's capped mountain. You pause to wipe the sweat from your brow. Though the wind is biting, labor still generates heat, churning within you. Your breath condenses into mist, like soft ribbons drifting into the air. Nearby, bird song rings out, perched upon bare branches. They watch the work with quiet curiosity, nodding their heads twice, as if approving the structure. You reach for a particularly smooth stone. It stops rounded. Lifting it, your thoughts drift to that question, of which modern historians often speak. They continue to study whether frontier hearths doubled as ovens, whether it was deliberate design, or whether the concept of baking food within stone cavities emerged only in the settled era. Evidence remains scattered. Interpretation still proves difficult. Gazing at the stone in your palm, you grasp the reason for the enduring debate. Its shape invites imagination, stacking stones to form a cooking cavity, yet no definitive historical record substantiate it. You place the stones with care, slotting them into the mid-minus section of the hearth wall. With a solid thud, they click into place. The structure now reaches knee height. Before your eyes, you can already envision leaping flames. You kneel once more to reinforce the base, wedge small stones into the gaps, ensuring the entire structure fits seamlessly. Cold air swirls around you, coiling your exhaled breath into slender spirals, vanishing in an instant. The hearth rises layer upon layer, gradually broadening to accommodate a vigorous blaze, towering high enough to shield the log cabin's walls from the assault of flying sparks. You persist in stacking stones, adjusting angles with steady palms, pressing each stone into place. Knees grow numb from prolonged kneeling in the snow, yet the warmth from labor suffices to drown out the sting. When the hearth rises to thigh height, weariness hums within your body. You step back to survey your handiwork. Your gaze traces curves and angles. Stones refract scattered patches of light, each rock face etched with minute tales carved by time. Gullies from ancient rivers, cracks frozen in harsh winters, smooth patches weathered by years of wind. You scoop up mud mixed with pebbles, and gently pack it into the crevices. A mixture fills the gaps, stabilizing the structure. Repeat until the wall feels solid to the touch. Finally, you select a broad, flat slab to form the hearth scoping. The weight tests your arms to their limit. Lift it slowly, handling it with utmost care, fully aware this piece is crucial. As it settles into place, the steady thud of the stone brings reassurance. You press your palm against its surface. Coolness seeps through your gloves. This is the true heart of the cottage. Warmth shall flourish here. You stand within your nascent home, drawing in a deep breath. The new hearth reshapes the space. Even without flames, its structure anchors the room, rooted in reality. Thoughts suddenly drift towards the future. Imagine the lingering glow of flames dancing upon logs. Burning timber emits a soothing crackle. Warmth sweeps through the room's profound comfort. You step back slowly, one step then another, admiring the stove's outline from afar. The forest minus ringed clearing lies in silent stillness, as if acknowledging this progress. Snowflakes lace the branches like lace. A pallid sky hangs overhead. Close your eyes for a moment. Inhale the scent of new stone and cold earth. The cottage now holds intention. A moment's silence, yet ready to welcome flame. As the first stone rises, warmth draws nearer than before. You step back from the hearth and gaze upwards, following the unfinished wall's outline, until your eyes meet the cold sky. A breeze stirs the glade, brushing the logs' crowns, whistling faintly through the crevices, where future beams shall rest. The cottage's foundations stand firm, yet roofless. It remains vulnerable, open to sky and storm. They shall come, the mountain folk soon learn. A sturdy roof often means the difference between weathering winter and being buried. Heavy snow may fall like a thick curtain, piling deep and swift. Even seasoned hunters sometimes awaken to the forest itself, groaning under the weight. You draw in your breath slowly, turning towards the tree line, where hewn logs lie stacked. They shall become the roof trusses. Each log must be straight enough to span the cottage's width, yet light enough to lift without slipping. As you approach the woodpile, the cold wind stings your cheeks. Snow crunches beneath your boots. Crouching beside the log, you begin a silent examination of each one, lifting a long pine beam, running your hand along its length. The stripped bark feels smooth, revealing the pale wood beneath. A detailed record, written by forest rangers of old. It mentions hunters often chose young pine for roof beams, for its wood, before snapping, would bend ever so slightly. This resilience allowed the roof to bear heavy snow without sudden collapse, leaning the beam to observe its balance. This one is just right. Dragged to the cottage, returned to fetch another, lifted the second beam. A flicker of light. In the mountain hole, it was often said, the sturdiness of rafters is judged by sound. Tapping each piece lightly with the back of a knife, listening intently. A clear, resonant sound signifies sound wood. A dull echo hides decay. Tapping the beam, a crisp echo reverberates. A quiet smile. This superstition may hold a grain of truth. Placing the two beams aside, gather several short pieces of timber for lateral support. Each must be trimmed, planed, and mortised to fit the roof beams. Moving to the hearthside, seated upon a flat stone, begin the carving, with shavings gather like swirling clouds at my feet. Carve out clean, precise grooves one by one. The motion is slow yet almost serene. Breath condensed into cold mist drifting through the air. Hands shaping wood with practiced rhythm. Amidst the selling, thoughts turn to scholarly debate. Those scholars studying primitive wilderness architecture. Some argued the steep roof pitches, commonly found in well-preserved log cabins, were deliberate adaptations, strategies for heavy mountain snows. Others maintained steep roofs, originated from European traditions, introduced by settlers and hunters, without initial local adaptation. Both perspectives find supporting evidence, yet neither fully resolves the question. A glimpse of my own cabin's framework instantly revealed why the slope is so steep. Snow is heavy, snow flows, snow demands respect. As the chisel marks complete, I brush wood shavings from my tunic, rising to my feet, erect the first long beam, brace one end against the cottage wall, step cautiously onto the log below, lift the other end until it spans the width. The beam settles into the hewn groove with a deep, satisfying thud. Test its stability with your weight. It holds firm as a rock. Position the second beam alongside. Step back to check the alignment. The upward angle is sharp and clean, outlining the first line of the steep roof. A small sense of triumph wells up in my vision. The roof begins with two beams, yet the transformation already holds the power of metamorphosis. The cottage no longer resembles an open wooden box, but rather a dwelling born for the harshest winter. Returning to the pile of beams, I select two. Snowflakes dance slightly amidst the labor. From the snow-laden bands drifting through the clouds, strolling through the forest glade, melting into the icy kiss of the gloves, falling unvanishing. As the next pair of rafters are lifted, the sky clears once more to a frosty blue, layering the battens. Each new rafter meets the log, a precise, solid connection, shaped by the blade, secured by the wood's own weight, angles meticulously calibrated as wedges are driven into place. As the work shed begins to take shape, rafters rise like ribs, forming a sturdy protective bolt overhead. When the final rafter is set, climbing down from the roof, brushing frost from cuffs, the roof frame opens overhead, its lines casting faint shadows upon the snow. Walking slowly beneath, letting the gaze follow the grain of the beams, gaps will eventually be filled. Yet now it seems like a soaring wooden lattice against the pale sky. The next stage requires slender branches, twigs and strips of bark to build a solid roof base, lifting the axe towards the slender spruce forest. Branches like frozen spears pierce the sky, trunks slender and straight. Select one to begin trimming. Woody fragrance fresh, resin rich. A sharp scent fills the air. Cut more poles, bind them into neat bundles. Poles prepared, climb back to the cottage. Begin laying them across the rafters. Each pole stretched from one end to the other, secured firmly upon the sloping rafters. Bound tight with fiber, twisted from dried bark. The rest naturally slotted into the rafters' grooves, held fast by friction and dangle. Remembered while weaving the bark fibers, the little minus-known details, whispered by the old hunters. Some seasoned hunters would moisten the fibers, claiming this caused the bark to swell slightly before binding, resulting in a tighter, drier finish. A rustic technique, opting instead to twist the fibers tightly by hand. The ingenuity of early builders evokes a wry smile. Where the posts in place, the roof begins to take shape. A skeletal dome, treading carefully along the rafters, maintaining balance as further layers are laid. Branches and bark strips. These overlapping components form the foundation, supporting heavier, covering layers. The wind brushes against one's face, yet beneath the hut, a growing sense of shelter. Retreating back to the clearing, the structure seems transformed. The soaring roof frame stands tall, awaiting its final covering, circling the hut slowly, admiring the soaring, sloping beams. Like protective wings, long shadows flow across the snow. The forest grows stiller now, as if acknowledging the solemnity of the task. The roof is a great guardian, blocking snow from burying the space, blocking rain from soaking the beds, trapping warmth where it's most needed. Finally, gaze upon the ridge beam, marvel at its strength. Its upright edges sharp and confident. Subsequent work requires tightly covering the roof, sufficient to withstand storms. But for now, the beams stand as the backbone, supporting the future shelter. Take a deep breath. Feel the crisp air filling your lungs. The cottage stands sturdier than before, erected upon the true defense line of early winter, pointing skyward. You stand beneath the gradually taking shape roof frame, feeling the chill air gently slip through the gaps between the beams, brushing your cheek. The rafters arch like sturdy ribs, yet without proper insulation. They remain but a bare skeleton, All who dwell in the mountains know a roof not built with care will betray them in the first blizzard. Snow will slip through fragile cracks. Cold seeps down from above. Warmth escapes like nightfall. Drag it away. Breathe slowly. Let importance settle in the chest. It is time to gather nature's leftover fragments and transform them into warmth. Take the axe to the forest's edge. Spruce branches droop in clusters. Pass beneath the dark needles, listening to the soft hiss of snowflake. Reach out to gently tug a long branch. Bend its naps with a silent crack. Needles spill their sharp fragrance into the air. Fragrance instantly awakens the senses. Detailed field notes left by early loggers. Evergreen branches prove ideal as primary insulation. Air pockets strapped between needles. These pockets slow heat loss, blocking cold air's downward penetration. Embrace arm for less of spruce branches. Neatly bundle them together. Twigs brush against coat, leaving faint resin traces. The pine resin scent lingers gently behind. Returning to the log cabin, lifting the first bundle, carefully climbing the rafters. The floorboards creak softly beneath the boots. The roof truss stands rock-solid, kneeling to lay branches upon the beams, layered like feathers, each layer concealing the gaps below. Needles tremble with the labor, weaving a soothing murmur, merging with my breath, pressing branches to adjust angles, ensuring limbs lie flat and flush against the roof frame. Should a branch shift, its dip sinks deep, woven beneath another's end, forming a living green net. All things unite to guard the cottage's warmth, crawling between rafters, recalling tranquil details of tales told around the hearth on winter nights. The hunter once said one could judge by the roof's warmth retention whether squirrels had stolen branches. If squirrels dared take them, it meant the roof proved tempting for beasts. This notion held a touch of humor, yet glancing at nearby branches, half minus expecting, half minus curious for a squirrel's appearance. No sign was seen. A faint smile plays at the corners of my mouth, taken as a good omen. When the first layer of branches covers the entire roof frame, I climb down and step back to survey the work. Spruce branches weave a natural textured carpet, softening the sharp edges of the rafters. Deep green and pale snow form a striking contrast. The roof already radiates warmth, as if holding its breath, awaiting the arrival of winter. But the work is not yet complete. To efficiently trap heat, the mountain folk layered multiple strata of natural materials, each layer serving its purpose, whether wind-proofing or moisture-minus wicking, or reinforcing the structure. They gathered spruce branches again, alongside strips of bark, stripped from fallen logs. The bark, tough yet slightly supple, reflected light as they hoisted it towards the cottage. Fragments of frozen resin clung to their gloves. Returning to the roof, they begin laying broad strips of bark over the branches, overlapping them like tiles, to channel water and snow away, preventing pooling. In the cold, the bark hardens swiftly, forming a surprisingly dependable barrier. Early hunters noted this too. Handwritten notes circulated among remote camps. Builders recommend using naturally dried fallen bark, claiming its curl was less pronounced than freshly stripped. When pressing the smooth bark into place by hand, the reason became clear. It molded perfectly, poised to withstand the winter's storms. As more bark was laid, a faint tapping sound reached my ears from deeper within the woods, perhaps a woodpecker seeking insects, or perhaps the crackling of ice on distant branches. Sounds softly echoing across the forest glade. Pausing to listen, letting the silence comfortably envelop. The forest holds its breath, watching the labor with silent patience, using supple roots and woven strands of dry grass to secure the bark pieces, fibers tightly wound around the rafters, binding the bark firmly to the roof frame. Hands now move with swift precision, weaving and lashing with consummate skill. The chill stings fingertips, urging faster action. As the final bark strips are secured, thoughts drift too. A subject scholars often debate, When studying primitive architecture, they argue whether early house builders sought layered insulation deliberately, or simply added material until the structure grew worn. Evidence remains scattered, some dwellings layered with care, while others appear haphazard. I lean towards believing necessity shaped the method. When bitter cold threatened humanity, creativity expanded. No need to fret over who might dissect these works centuries hence. Climbing down from the roof once more, gathering the final batch of materials, straw bound into thick knots, scraps of animal hide, dried cattle fluff, harvested from the near-minus frozen stream, each fulfilling its role to seal the roof, sealing the narrow gaps left by bark and twigs. Climbing back into the low-minus silencing hut, tucking straw into the crevices, where light still managed to seep through. Woven grass formed a dense mat, an excellent insulator. Temp cattle fluff into finer cracks. Soft fibers roll slightly as they settle, filling the fissures to block winter's chill. As light snow began to fall during the labor, from pale, wispy clouds, flakes landed upon the fur, slowly melting. The warmth of labor lingered around them, carefully treating the leather strips, where the minus-resistant leather straps guarded the ridge, where rain and snow most readily accumulate. Each strip and the upper beam, secured tightly, leather lay flat against bark, erecting the final protective barrier. The elders of remote winter settlements often say, properly fitted hides safeguard the roof spirit, preventing its soul from dispersing. Though it seems laughable, one must admit how really practical they are, tying the final knot, legs stiff from crouching upon the sloping beam, climbing down with utmost care, boot soles making soft, muffled thuds upon the logs. Standing upon the cabin's foundation, I gaze upward. The roof appears full and solid, layers of natural grain, blending gracefully with the surrounding wilderness. Emerald spruce branches peek beneath the bark. Grass fibers seal minute fissures. Leather straps strafe pure. Dark lines along the ridge. Stepping back into the clearing, the snow beneath my feet gave a soft crunch. The cabin seemed more complete than ever. No longer a fragile frame exposed to the sky. Now it possessed a sheltering canopy, sturdy enough to withstand the first snowstorms, strong enough to bear the weight of deep winter's heavy snows. Exhaling a long breath, watching the mist rise slowly, the roof built today carries memories. Each branch, each strip of bark, each fiber woven into place. This is a collage of labor and instinct. Much like the craftsmanship of mountain folk of old, hands brush lightly against gloves. Bark shavings drift through the air. The cottage waits quietly for the next task. Though silent, warmth already permeates. At this first moment, it begins to take the shape of home. Beneath the winter sky, I walk slowly towards the cottage entrance, or the doorway yet to be found. Snow shifts softly beneath my boot. As I approach the unfinished threshold, the walls stand solid. The roof proudly crowns. The hearth awaits the first flames, but without a door, warmth cannot be kept in. The doorway opens to the winter cold, inviting icy air to pour in, like an uninvited guest curled by the hearth. The dwelling you've labored to build. Mountain folk understand this well. Even the most humble shelter needs a dependable door to hold the warmth within, to keep out the world's harshness. Stepping over the lintel, let your fingertips trace the edges of the timber framework. The cool wood serves as a steadfast reminder. Each component has endured the winter's baptism to become a part of the home. Standing before the doorway, imagine the wooden door gently opening inward with a creak. Hand minus carved bolt, sealed tight. A faint pride stirs within, almost hearing the lock click into place. Building a door requires planks. Thick, sturdy planks joined tightly together. Picking up tools, I head towards the stacked log. Long timber, half minus buried in snow. Bark already stripped away. Brushing off the snow, I gently roll it to inspect. Grain straight, hardwood solid, suitable for splitting into planks. lifting the axe. I take a deep breath. Mountain folk have no sawmills, no planers. Planking is hewn directly from the log. Rough edges bear the marks of the tool. The axe blade swings down with precise force, letting the edge bite deep into the hardwood. The log trembles slightly under the impact. Another blow widens the crack. After several strikes, the blade tip embeds in the fissure. A mallet applies force, driving it deeper. The log begins to split. The sound of fibers tearing echoes softly across the forest clearing, patiently widening the fissure until the log splits cleanly in two. Each half becomes a usable plank, set aside temporarily. Then take up the knife to shape. Long pale shavings curl and drift to the feet. Gather the soft ribbons from the snow. Maintain even pressure with the blade. Sand the inner surface until smooth. The plank seeks no perfection. Perfection is not the goal. Strength, fit simplicity matter more. While splaining, a passage recalls from a late 19th century hunting manual, where the author stressed doors must swing inward, should snow pile against them. Outward swinging doors would trap those within. A detail, now that seems minor, yet proves deadly in deep winter. After smoothing the plank, lean it lightly against the cottage wall, begin splitting off a section. The cold seizes my fingers with each stroke of the plane. I pause now and then to warm myself. The fire embraces my palms with its gentle heat, closing my eyes for a moment to savor the warmth. Once my hands are warmed, I pick up the wood and continue my work. The familiar rhythm, wedge, split, plane. The second plank takes shape. Snowflakes drifted like pale clouds, melting instantly upon the stove's warm surface. Sleeves fell lightly upon the shoulders, brushing away dust and snow. Focused on the task ahead, the wooden door would eventually take shape. Several planks arranged in a row outlined a rough rectangle upon the snow. Though the edges did not fit perfectly, they were sufficient to assemble a tightly sealed door. Kneeling beside it, gathering the remaining wood, horizontal reinforcements were added, selecting 3 sturdy pieces of timber, trimming their ends until they spanned the width of the door. Wooden wedges pierce the crossbar, embedding into the plank to form a secure bond. Each hammered wedge draws the planks closer, tightening until they become one. Each step makes the door heavier, gradually solidifying into a grounded entity. Beneath the palms, silent memories surface. Ancient tales of the wilds are told. Hunters once carved minute symbols, brief marks upon the door, signifying in the vast wilderness that something belonged to them. Gazing upon the door's clean surface, he resolved to carve his own name later, when all was ready. Now it was time for the bolt. Mountain folk often fashioned their own bolts, gathering scraps of wooden offcuts, selecting sturdy pine, carving it into a rounded handle, crafting the crossbar separately, refining the pivot point, ensuring the wooden wedge slides smoothly, securing the handle to the door's inner side, fastening it with 2 slender wedges, joining the crossbar with a thicker wedge, guaranteeing free opening unclosing, lifting the bolt, lowering it. The wood's light clatter, pleasant as a whisper. Crafting hinges when metal is unavailable. Simple wooden hinges prove remarkably effective. Carved to sturdy hinge plates from leftover timber. Chisel matching grooves into the door frame. Each hinge engages its counterpart, enabling the door to swing smoothly. Slowly test minus fit the hinge plates. Repeatedly check alignment before securing. Once confirmed, lift the heavy door panel towards the entrance. Weight tests both hands. Knees braced against the door. Adjust the sliding position. Shifting snow required readjusting my boot position. Press the hinge into the groove, tapped gently with a wooden mallet. A dull thud marked its positioning. This moment carried an unexpected sense of ritual. Grasped the handle and pushed forward slowly. The door leaf swung inward, scraping through the thin snow. Closed fully. The bolt slid into place. A crisp, wooden click. Dim light within the cottage, shielding the open sky. The space gains its first sense of enclosure. Push the door again. Inspect the gap. Cold air seeps through the narrow slit beneath the lintel. Once sealed, moss will conceal it. Test the door repeatedly, opening and closing. At different angles, each movement meets steady resistance. Hinges as sturdy as new. The bolt clicks into place. The cabin gains a new heartbeat. Listening in silence. Smiling. Immersed in contentment. The door panel, roughened, uneven, belongs to you, transforming a draughty shell into a sanctuary against the bitter winter. Winter winds howl, stepping out of the forest clearing, closing the door behind. The sound, soft yet distinct. The cottage now stands with a voice, wooden sighs proclaiming sturdy refuge. Sunlight lowers, casting long shadows and snow upon the sky. Stand still for a moment, drawing in the stillness. Warmth gathers within. Outside, the cold wind grows sharper with each breath. Hand traces the door's rough grain. Beneath the gloves, the wood grain is felt. The door guards the night's fire and dreams. How precious are the gifts of the wild. Stepping back, the doorframe settles into place. The winter minus ready stands awaits beyond the woods. Entering the cottage once more, the new wooden door closes steadily behind. A light knock, the dim shelter within. A warm glow surpasses the darkness. Boot tips tread over uneven snowdrifts. Still covering the floor, here the walls rise higher. Cold seeps upward from the floor, more intensely than anywhere else. Snake miner spattered boots clinging to ankles, chill seeping deep into bones. Mountain folk know this all too well. Poorly insulated floors lose heat faster than cracked walls or leaking roofs. Stand still a moment. Let the chill remind what must be done next. The floor needs changing. Nail to scoop a handful of snow, spreading it across the hut's floor. Watch crystals shatter between gloved hands. Breath dissolves into slender ribbons of vapor. Frozen earth beneath feet, hard as stubborn stone. Lift the spade to begin clearing the snow layers peel away. Metal scraping, ice plays a steady rhythm, echoing between wooden walls. Each shovel mine is full of snow tossed aside. Dark earth revealed, growing sparser. The cabin now resembles a shallow excavation site. Frozen earth blocks protrude from the thinning snow. The indoor air grows slightly warmer. The snow layer, no longer reflecting the chill. The fort raiders' meticulous notes, having endured the harsh northern winter. Pioneers often compacted the wooden cabin foundations until the soil resembled beaten clay, forming a sturdy base, resistant to the changing seasons. I decided to follow suit. Setting aside the spade, I took up the axe miner's head, repeatedly striking and compacting, until the earth grew dense. Each blow centered all vibration through my arm. The process felt like a symbolic routine. I pictured mountain folk working with precision by lamplight. As night froze everything outside, resolve forged the path to survival. Now your choice echoes theirs. Once the soil was leveled, I gathered loose earth from outside, scattering it throughout the room. Compact depressions, level protrusions. Each step evens the ground. Kneel, smooth with palms, as kneading soft dough. Dirt clings to gloves. Wipe clean. Continue shaping. Compacted earth still chills with winter's bite. Mountain folk instinctively understand. Layering locks in warmth. Some use woven grass mats. Others lace spruce branches. More lay animal hides to insulate the body from the frozen earth. Rising, stepping out of the hut, seeking materials to build a warm foundation. Beside the tree line, golden grasses tower, poking through the snow, prying up delicate tufts, bending to gather several handfuls. Stems snap crisply at the root. Dry grass rustles softly. They gather more, stacking it into bundles. Arm for less fill the entrance to the hut. Another trip is made, enough to cover the entire room. Stepping inside, they shake out the grass bundles, fine threads drifting through the air. They spread an natural, compacted layer of earth. Kneeling, They begin arranging the grass stems evenly. As they work, they recall the finer points, oft unmentioned in tales of winter survival. Certain long-minus forgotten hunters firmly believed grass gathered at the first frost possessed a special resilience that resisted mold. The truth of this claim remains uncertain, but sorting the stalks, their touch is crisp and firm. Layering the grass continues until the earth disappears beneath the woven yellow blanket. Fingertips lightly stroke the surface, feeling it soften. Layer upon layer shields against the cold. Knowing this is but the beginning. Mountain dwellings often require multiple defenses against winter's encroachment. Stepping outside once more, towards the thicket of trees, fallen logs, peeling bark, half-minus buried in snow, shoveling away the snow, lifting the long strips, the texture, both firm and supple, picking up several pieces, selecting the broad, flat surfaces, returning to the hut. I lay the bark strips atop the grass layer. Their curved shapes resemble puzzle pieces, forming a rustic, brown-grey mosaic. The bark strengthens the structure, preventing feet from sinking too deep into the soft grass layer. Inside, the light dims as clouds drift across the sky outside the window. The gloom makes the space feel more enclosed and intimate. I continue adjusting the bark fragments, pressing until each piece fits snugly. Movement slow, fatigue emerging, muscles whisper, recalling the animal hides, dragging out folded animal skins while walking, carried since the journey start. Thick, warm, supple, retaining the faint scent of smoke minus and leather. Mountain folk cherish leather's portable insulation, serving as bedding, clothing, and carpet. Cleverly laid hides warm the coldest corners, inviting rest and sleep. First, spread the first hide over the bark. Its elegant drape fills the hollows and angles below. The smooth surface feels warm to the touch, even through gloves. Then lay another hide, and another, forming a broad, continuous layer. Try stepping onto the ground. The chill no longer pierces through boots, replaced by a muffled sensation. As winter air retreats a few paces, crouch low, palm pressed against fur, a touch nearing warmth compared to the icy soil tilled before. Silent contentment warms the chest. The final finishing touch completes the insulation. Many frontier settlers built remote huts, where cold winds once pierced the floor. A few tufts of cattle fibers, handfuls of moss. Gather the remaining moss and gently tuck it in, laying a soft green cushion along the wall base. Press down to seal the gaps, locking the last cracks, where chill might seep through. Rising slowly upon completion, your gaze sweeps the interior. The cottage floor felt cozy, the earth solid beneath, grass hidden beneath, bark created. A soft cushion, the space seemed warmer, even without a fire's glow. Stepping slowly across, listening for the dull thud. No longer did the soles of boots crackle harshly on snow. Instead, a soft muffled sound. Kneeling by the hearth, palms pressed once more to the earth. Cold rose from the soil, yet now it felt gentle. Each layer added slowed his pace. He jolted his head, listening for the chill wind, perhaps unnoticed. Only silence answered. He pressed his heel lightly, drew a deep breath. Warmth settled in his heart like a sense of accomplishment. The hut was different now, not yet complete, not yet fortified against winter's fiercest fury, yet undeniably transformed. Sealed floors, sturdy log walls encircling. The structure bears a new voice, whispering of tranquil steadiness, silent refuge. Outside, a breeze brushes the treetops. Snowflakes swirl upon the high branches. A faint light glimpsed through the window crack. Soon the window frame will be tightly shut. Now warm light illuminates the newly insulated floor. Stillness, slowly rising. I approach the door, pushing it open. A whirl of cold air swirls. The soles of my boots dance. Yet it disturbs not the cottage's unprecedented resilience. The floor bears warmth, The hearth awaits the bonfire. The walls hold back the cold wind. Stepping outside, gazing upon the renewed structure. Tonight the temperature plunges. The indoor floor no longer steals body heat, weaving a cozy dwelling, once reserved for winter's depths. Now the floor is finally complete. The cottage takes a new step towards a true home, standing outside, gazing at the expanse of white world. Roofs are sturdy, walls are tight, floors efficiently warm the space. Even with meticulous construction, there remains a force beyond prediction, capable of destroying all structures. Snow accumulating, solidifying, melting, then re-freezing, at times writhing like a living thing. Mountain folk spend half the winter studying the ways of snow. Modern travelers study maps, drawing in a deep breath, letting the chill settle upon the tip of the tongue. It takes time to understand snow can aid, yet it can also harm. Fresh snow drifts down from the pale blue sky, spiraling down. Fine crystals form upon the cuffs, watching them melt in an instant, warming the body. Know that softness often deceives. The gentle veil of snow eventually becomes a heavy burden. Walking around the cabin, boot prints trace steady circles. Observing the surface, snow naturally accumulates. Wind sweeps past, clearing loose flakes, transforming into rippling patterns. Crouching to track its movement, forms narrate tales. North of the hut, snow first gathers. A narrow ridge forms a slope against the wall. Opposite, it gradually rises steeply. Early records show wilderness travelers. Hunters often use natural snow drifts for warmth. When snow presses against the cabin walls, it builds a shield against the cold, warding off wind and snow. At first, using snow as a shield seems absurd, yet standing still, watching the soft snow settle, its ingenuity gradually becomes apparent. Cupping snow, patting it firm, molding it into a tight, solid meth. Trapping air within the snow slows the flow of cold wind, throwing down snowballs. Observing them rise encourages beneficial snow accumulation, while suppressing dangerous drifts. Strange memories surface. Some winter guides claim to read the season's mood through the shape of the first snowdrift. Dense accumulation foretells a bitterly cold winter. Loose spreading signals a milder season, though lacking scientific basis. The superstition's charm endures. Smiling, I glance at the snowdrift, clean and solid in form. Perhaps the season intends to test. Turning instead to the roof, a dusting of snow lightly covers bark tiles. Fir branches frosted with sugar-white glaze. Knowing the snow will deepen. Sloping roofs aid, shedding heavy snow. Yet constant vigilance remains. Mountain folk will long poles to clear snow from roofs. Ground, seek where saplings grow. Poles fit their purpose. Among clustered young trees, find tall, straight branches. Pull snow to test strength. Shake off frost and frost. Slightly bent yet unbroken. A fine tool is made. The pole tip gently touches. The roof lightly pushed. Loose snow slides down, softly rolling to one's feet. Clearing continues until the roof is clean once more, though the snowflakes drift lightly. Winter has arrived. In the blink of an eye, the cloud minus like drifts away. Above the forest clearing, heavy grey clouds appear early. Certain researchers specialists in early frontier climates. They point out that sudden changes in mountain weather, spurring the need for proactive snow clearance. Journals record blizzards burying entire outbuildings overnight. Gazing skyward, apprehension grows at lurking storm. Beyond the ridge, relocate to the leeward cottage. Snow carves elegant trajectories, leaving delicate traces upon the walls. Wind minus stripped flakes settle, demanding alternative methods to reinforce sidewall. Accumulated snow forms natural barriers, shielding from wind without fostering hazardous drifts. Gathering fallen branches, leaning them loosely to build snow walls, forming a natural windbreak. Branches intercept drifting snow, preventing it from blowing through. Moderate accumulation aids insulation. wooden support compacted without excess, watching snowflakes rest quietly on branches, like silent solace. The next challenge lies in the doorway. The new entrance also faces snowdrifts. Hunters often master this in storm. A few paces from the entrance, build small snow walls, not solid walls, but curved ridges that break the wind's force. Shovel gathered snow, sculpting a crescent shape. Around the doorway, cold, malleable snow forms an arc, numinous high, simple in form, yet profound in purpose. Slows the wind, aids snow accumulation, keeping deposits away from the entrance, keeping the passage clear. Gusts push snow, requiring clearing. Snow minus laden retop. Raindrops like streams of light cascading, pausing to listen. The forest whispers with faint crackling. Branches bear the weight as ice and snow intertwine. Mountain folk recognize these sounds well. The snow carries emotions and messages. Long minus forgotten details resurface in the ear. The old hunter trusts the patterns of falling snow. Straight tracks foretell the movement of wolf. Swirl patterns herald night's tranquility. Gently await snow's soft spirals. Paint tears delicate helix. Shape snow walls. Then step back. Brush clean the palms. The cottage merges into winter's silent scene. Learn to coexist with snow, not oppose it. Snow piles like cuffs. Thick winter garments tightly wrap the core. Decide to circle the glade along the path. Gaze intently. Scrutinize the view. Snow beneath creaks and groans. The biting wind stings. Frost clings to lashes. Following the faint hollows of snow tracks towards the woods. Discovering a shallow snow nest beneath a thick branch. Melting snow reveals the warmth beneath. He lies hidden peril. Heavy snow make oars collapse. Take the shovel. Fill the gaps. Compact. Until the ground is level once more. Compacting the snow surface prevents sudden collapse, helps distribute the weight evenly. Practical adjustments preserved many cottages. Amidst the deep winter's silence and warping, the journey home brought deeper understanding. Snow is both a force to be managed and a malleable form. Living beings guide, becoming silent allies, leaning against the stove. I gaze once more at the roof. Snowflakes drift lightly, threats settling silently, entering and closing the door. The space grows stiller, shut off from the outside labor. The difference is immediately felt. The biting cold no longer creeps through the floorboards. The howling wind no longer whips through the cracks. The cottage stands secure within the snowy realm, stepping onto the insulated floor, standing by the hearth. Breath condenses into pale white ribbons. The cottage's stillness deepened. Hand on the wall, feeling the wood's tranquility. Outside, the world remains a vast, icy white. Within, a hidden shelter's warmth. Warmth keeps watch beside the hearth. Snowflakes drift gently, their fall growing faint, yet they know their destination. Well minus traveled, standing still within the sanctuary. A shape forms in the palm. A certainty takes root. Someone understands winter. A familiar tale, shifting the stove. Cold coils and rises. The unlit stone hearth. The cottage stands firm, its roof layered, its walls tight. Yet neglect the meticulous work, and the carefully built will crumble. The flue, warmth from the flames, smoke rising, must escape freely. The cottage becomes a suffocating box, filled with smoke. The mountain folk quickly grasp the importance of ventilation in a winter cottage, tending the fire itself, kneeling by the stone hearth, rubbing its edge, imagining the invisible currents of air, soon to fill the space, rising to step outside, gaze upon the rear wall, where the chimney rises, the stones previously laid from a solid foundation. Now the threatened crown of the chimney must be built. Gather and arrange small to medium stones. Test each stone in the palm. Some are rough yet dependable, others fragile and prone to crack. Select the sturdy ones, placing them gently beside the hearth. Early fur traders' journals mention that a well-minus crafted chimney clears smoke, even in storms. The author describes spending hours adjusting the stone's angles until the draft was perfect. Now I kneel to shape the inner throat. The chimney begins with a narrow gap above the hearth. Long stones are placed on either side, slightly angled inward. Small stones are stacked layer by layer, each layer tested for draft. A flint slide strikes sparks a faint flame, watching smoke curl and rise, like a ribbon swaying slowly. The fading cold draft remains uncertain. Adjust the stone's angle. Breathe gently into the opening. Test the smoke's path once more, decisively upward. A slow nod acknowledges gradual mastery, recalling mountain folklore. On mist-shrouded nights, the chimney's whisper signals the airflow's zenith. A crisp, continuous flow, no crackling or roar. A faint smile plays on my lips, imagining winter nights gathered round the hearth, listening to the cottager's quiet breath, peace as constant companion, continuing to stack stones. The chimney grows taller, climbing higher. Stones grow colder, gloves pierced by icy surfaces. Frost crystals glisten. Sunlight shifts. Press carefully, embedding fragments into crevices, sealing tightly. The wall rises inch by inch. When the chimney reaches waist height, step back to test. Kindle its weight. The hearth fire rises in a straight plume. Days drifts. The draft grows stronger, finding a clear path. A well-built chimney should extend above the roof ridge, else wind pressure will cause smoke to swirl, and back into the cottage, tossing stones, selecting the right fit, eliminating wobble. As the sun climbs the sky during labor, casting long slanting rays, the shadow climbs the chimney, stretching alongside, like a slender companion, climbing onto the roof, carefully moving stones, a few at a time. Each trip demands balance, caution, and patience. Climb the rafters slowly, placing stones within reach. Only then can the position be secured. The forest glade widens. The forest glade widens. The cottage connects with the earth. Standing upon the roof, begin to extend the chimney upwards. Cold wind brushes the face. Whirlwind sweeps stones. Wooden tiles clatter beneath the boots. New stones anchored. Rubble piled, forming a tight column. The chimney grows taller. The breeze crispened, invigorating, shaping the crown. The chimney's apex. Thoughts drift to the wilderness, ongoing research into the structure. Scholars debate why early chimneys were square, while others were oddly tapered and circular. Some suggest shape, influence, draft, intensity. Others propose builders simply utilized readily available stone, the structure evolving organically. Practicality dictated decisions. Where stones interlocked became permanent. Adjusting terminal stones shaped the crown opening's angle, slightly skewed with the wind to aid smoke ascent, preventing fumes from sinking. Gently rocking tested stability, stones stood rock-solid. Not a hair's breadth moved. Climbing the roof demands measured step, each action deliberate. Boot tips finally touched the snow beside the cottage. A long sigh escaped. Only then realizing breath had been held. Stepping inside, kneeling before the hearth, striking the flint once more. A faint light flickers upward. Smoke swirls hesitantly. Finally, clear and crisp, it rises, gazing as the chimney vanishes into the throat, leaving behind a realm of clarity. Pausing briefly, savoring this silent triumph, the cottage transformed, having learnt to breathe, slowly moving a hand towards the draft, the invisible passage, feeling the faint pull, air drawn silently into the chimney, confident and resolute, reinforcing the lower section, scooping up earth to build. Meltwater streams through the frozen soil, seeking patches softened by subterranean warmth. Kneeling, I mix earth, grass clippings, and grit, prepare a thick mortar, carefully applying it along the cracks. Smooth the inner stones with my thumb, await patiently as the mortar hardens into a reliable seal. During the wait, I recall an ancient secret. The local chronicle mentions mixing in a pinch of ashes, to prevent the chimney mortar from cracking in the bitter cold. Whether true or not, I apply a thin layer of the ash mixture. It matters not, for it feels like paying homage to ancient wisdom. Those forebears, after sealing the cracks, step back and gaze at the hearth. Stones solid, chimney straight. Their currents circulate within the house. Hesitant, the heart of the cottage begins to function. Warmth spreads to every corner. Sitting on the fur rug, close your eyes for a moment. The cottage is still. A gentle breeze whispers outside the window. The forest still. The air lingers longer, stealing warmth. Smoke rises, the silent guardian, carrying the breath of flame skyward. Opening my eyes, I survey the space. New light illuminating it. The chimney intact. The cottage finally a dwelling place. The hearth fire burns safely. The air clear. Winter lingers longer. Control weakens. Rising, I approach the door, touching the smooth wooden plank. Stepping onto the clearing. The tall, slender chimney stands like a stone miner's carved hand. Smoke trails mark the warmth. The deep cold, the crisp air brushes my face. Serent pure. Behind the cottage, a steady confidence breathes. I can do it for sound. Warmth nurtured. Winter air slips away. Now the draft is tamed. The chimney stands ready. The cottage almost alive. Stepping inside, letting stillness settle like thick velvet. The door closes with a soft knock, shutting out the forest sounds. The first truly enclosed space. Warmth not yet full. Promises linger in the air. Standing by the hearth, imagining flames dancing among the crackling logs. Imagining the glow of embers reaching every corner of the room. Yet solid walls, sturdy roof, finished chimney, cannot contain the character of a winter night. A strange humming, a soft pulsing, a low murmur, weave through the darkness, catching the seasoned woodsman's alertness. Deep within the cottage, pondering tonight's sounds, curled upon the fur rug, you press to the floor. At first, all is silent. Then the forest slowly stirs. The cottage walls begin to murmur. Distant trees emit faint groans. The weight of ice drifts. A crisp crack echoes beyond the glade. Snow rustles through the boughs. Sounds softened, layered like fine threads, reminding even in repose. The wilderness still shifts, adjusts, persists. The meticulous field notes of an early hunter. The first winter night in the new cabin brings conflict, pride and unease. Pride in the dwelling's steadfastness, unease, the wilderness at one's ear, pressed close to the timber, listening, feeling, fearing, aware. The cabin stands in the world. The outside world still stands, hearing the wind rise. A low murmur over the roof, sliding bark, rafters, spruce branches. Sounds evoke memories of streams flowing through narrow channels. Closing eyes slightly, letting sound waves weave a tranquil rhythm. The wind's murmur soothes. The cabin stands steadfast, transforming into a lullaby. Steadfast and assured, I howl echoes from deep within the forest, soft yet distinct, as open to behold a pack of wolves. The sound reverberates, snowflakes drifting like silver threads. Fading, another voice echoes from afar. The wolf's howl undulates like a gentle arc. Early mountain journals often recount this night, when packs howl beneath the moon. Writers describe it thus: the sound is eerie yet beautiful, only now understood, not a threat, merely belonging to the night. Leaning against the wall, listening as layers unfold. Wind murmurs overhead, wolves call in the distance. Trees and streams, softly sighing beneath the cabin. Faint sounds, with swelling unshrinking. Cold, releasing faint crackling. Gentle, in frontier folklore, a curious detail. Old hunters believed the sounds on a cabin's first night signaled the settling of its structure. Sharp, frequent crackling meant the wood was adapting to warmth. A few sounds require time to adjust. Thinking of the true reality, a faint smile touches the lips, rising to pace, gently pushing the door ajar. allowing a trickle of crisp air to seep through the crack. Outside, the clearing, the sky faintly lit, moonlight cast upon the snow, shadows spread across the ground, gentle patterns. The forest breathes, the trees live and move, following the familiar path. Stepping over the threshold, the chill kisses the cheeks. The wind carries the night's strange whispers, sounds born of shifting noises, winter's reorganization, rhythmic tapping. I turn to look at the trees. The sound repeats, slow and hollow, perhaps branches striking, another gust, perhaps frozen bark cracking and falling. Listen closely. The tapping awakens detail. The forest scoured records the woodcutter's wisdom. Interpreting the knocks foretells temperature shifts. Rapid taps herald rising chill. Slow taps signal warm currents returning. Scientifically validated insight. Standing at the door, pondering the path ahead, gently opening the door, returning to the cottage's heart. The wooden floor muffles footsteps, creating a soft, comforting silence. Sitting still, enveloped by the atmosphere, the sounds of night weevil and scape, stretching out, feeling the real wilderness. The nights the mountain folks spend, whether gathered round the stove or sunk into dreams. The cabin breathes, sounds from outside filtering through the trees, transforming into stories. Imagine winter storms sweeping across the mountains. Imagine gales tearing at the cliffs. Scholars examine old frontier correspondence. Winter nights, psychological strain shaped. Mountain dwellers, frequency of reinforcing shelters. Others suggest solitude fostered, a keener interpretation of sound closer to truth. Winter night harbor sounds. Lying still, gaze upon the beams and shadow. Moonlight slips through window cracks. Silver silhouettes. Eyes closed. Listen to distant wolf howls. Wind deepens. Humming turns to whispers. The wooden beams above transform into a soothing rhythm. Still thoughts draw deeper peace and focus. Inhale the air within the house. The scent of leather, hay and cold stone. A pleasing blend. The steadiness of earth. Imagine this fragrance when the hearth fire ignites. Smoke warms and fills the room. A faint sweetness. The scent of resin yet to come. The real present. Sitting by the hearth, hands touching the wooden beam. Cruel and dependable. Thinking of the countless winter nights mountain folk endure. Listening to the world outside. Learning to discern. The distant crunch of snow minus covered animal tracks. The glacial creak of ice. Cold air sliding over branches. Sounds guiding the reassuring yet alert darkness. A faint thud catches attention. Insignificant. Probably snow sliding from the roof's branches. Then a moment's wait. A faint tapping on bark follows. Then silence. The roof remains steadfast as rock. The weight lifted brings profound comfort. The cabin withstands the night sounds, merging with the wilderness's structure, existing in harmony. The night may be perilous, yet life remains pure, sinking into concealment. The forest's continuous chorus echoes beneath the warm floorboards. The roof sighs like gentle waves, tenderly enfolding the sanctuary. Feeling stillness, winter settles deep within. Tonight's wild sounds belong to the mountains, rising slowly, stretching arms, muscles warmed by fur coat. Night sounds drift, thoughts stern, challenges faced by mountain folk. Before the storm arrives, food stored, frost drains over land and sky, food frozen solid. Meat hard as stone, fat loses its softness. Vegetables crack and shatter. Push open the door, cold air like a ribbon brushes the face. Cold preserves learn to utilize it. Step out onto the clearing, breathe the morning air. The sky turns pale, morning frost crystallizes. Every twig, rock, and tuft of grass cloaked in snow. Boots crunching powdered snow, vast silence. Thoughts, mountain folk's morning trek, carrying meat bundles to ward off predatory beasts. Gripping winter's harshness with tenacity. Roadside thickets, small snowdrift covering the ground. The shallow pit dug the day before, A simple storage cavity, ingeniously designed. Natural refrigeration in the frozen earth. Several records of survival on the frontier hunters' provisions. Preserved underground. Rapidly frozen. Deep-frozen food grows harder portioned for cooking. The prying oath. Parting the pine branches. Kneeling to inspect the pit's mouth concealed by pine branches. Cold air surges. The frozen earth pungent. The chill within the pit, overwhelming. Bundles of dried meat trapped in hides. Carefully lifted. Heavy as boulders. The pit constructed with precision. Examining the meat bundles. Oral border tails surface in the mind. The old hunter insisted buried meat must be paired with specific evergreen branches to repel scavengers. The potent scent of pine resin roof or illusion rises. The storage chamber, bitterly pungent, deep within the concealed pit. Seek the woods to build an even larger cache, constructing grain stores in the mountains. Elevated platforms transporting supplies. Wooden platforms guard against wolves and bears. Small storehouses hidden behind the forest, among rocky ridges and tree shadows. Few dig cellars. Under the cover of logs. Patrol the woodland in search. Seek low-lying terrain, sheltered by tall pines. Trunks encircle to block the wind, concealing the storehouse. Kneeling to brush away snow. Probing the soil layer. Selling cellars into frozen rock. Axes hacking away. Begin excavation. Gathering large branches from fallen pines. Dragging them to the chosen spot. Piling them as cover. Collecting pine cones. Parting the rustling undergrowth. They hear darts past, leaving scattered tracks before vanishing into the woods. Its presence stirs memories, preserving winter's guide. Small prey reveal the safest paths through deep snow. Footprints show firm surfaces concealing hollows beneath. Begin selling at the chosen spot. Frozen earth resists the impact of boot heels and spades. Repeated selling breaks up clods, shatters thick slabs. Heavy breaths drift in the air, the smoky labor raising questions. Historians exploring the wilderness ponder. Debate persists over how early mountain dwellers stored food. Convenience and fear of spoilage often coexist. The answer lies between. Winter provisions are precious, requiring careful guardianship. Digging to waist minus depth. The rough pit walls are barely serviceable. Gloved hands smooth them to compact the earth. The pit complete, its base lined with thick spruce branches, the needles from a cushion, preventing food from touching the frozen earth directly. The cellar fills with a crisp chill that wards off curious animals. Returning to the cabin for sackets of dried meat and smoked fish, a sack of ground grain, brought back from earlier travels, rustles, lifted the inner layer of stones. The rope tightly bound the bundle, shouldered it down into the pit. A deep satisfaction welled up at the thought of the stored provisions. Gently laid the branches. The pit swallowed the cool embrace, covered it with a thick layer of spruce branches, the ones gathered earlier. Sealed the top with a mound of snow, shaping it. Leveled the earthen mound, blending seamlessly with the terrain. Examined the contours of the mound closely. Ordinary snowdrift, indistinguishable from others, concealed hollows. Open mountain wilds hold greater appeal. The seasoned hunter trusts ice and snow's guardianship. Heavy loads mask scent. Cold air preserves food's fragrance. Well structured. More secure, one step over the mound reveals. Loose edges breed suspicion. Hollows bring satisfaction, turn back to the hut. Along the way, pause by the strimstone, where thin ice conceals a trickle. Probing beneath the ice, crouching to observe the stream's chill beneath the surface. Nature's refrigerators serve the hunter. The frozen stream conceals fresh meat. Perishable goods sink and bind, finding greater stability in deep pools. Testing the ice with an anchor stone, the glove feels its solidity. Deep water operations coincide with the fresh meat season. Forest air thickens. Mist coils around the scarf with each step. Distant ice cracks softly in the stillness. Thoughts turn to the mountain folk, concentrating to discern safety. echoes of fissures in the deep valley. Danger is the lonely whisper, nature's displacement, reaching the cottage door, pushing open the familiar threshold. Indoor chill greets one, gently brushing off snow-clad garments upon entry, moving to the hearth, kneeling upon stone, provisions stored outside. They kneel by the fire offers shelter, glimpsing faint light streaming through the window gap. Animal hides spread upon the floor, breathing slowly, stillness settling, the hut seeping into the marrow. Food lies hidden beneath the snow, underground stores slumbering. The wilderness draws near, palm pressed against the hearthside. The chill is measured, guarding the fire, waiting quietly, thinking of winter days in the mountains. The balance of labor and rest, peril and safety, warmth and cold, moments of concealment sealed away. The hut stands, attuned to the rhythm, silent walls, listening to the wind whispering through the trees. Here in this stillness, winter's provisions sleep beneath the snow, awaiting the descent of the cold night. Standing by the hearth, rubbing hands to feel the faint warmth, the friction makes the solitary hut whole within the passing of time. Knowing survival requires the walls and roof of the mountains, clothing serves as a portable shelter. The private hut bears the journey home. Mountains pay homage through layered garments. Repairs and reinforcements rely on sturdy construction. Stepping through the door, the cold air stings the cheeks a sharp, piercing reminder. Garments indeed serve their purpose. Stepping out, a deep breath draws winter's chill into the skin. Snowflakes lazily tug at the coat, adjusting the collar. Even modern instincts sense the clothing choice is ill-advised, turning simple walking into peril. The mountains teach experience, mistakes etched into the bones, lessons carved into the mirror. Moving along the tree line, low branches droop over the edge of the clearing, stripping off the animal hide. Cleaned at night, its surface glows with a dulled-on light. The texture is supple, testing its elasticity with a raised hand. Numerous records preserved. The pioneers favored germal, layered leather outerwear, defying biting winds and sub-0 temperatures. The fallen hide feels warm, though the air is icy, bringing the leather indoors, laying it flat upon smooth timber, retrieving the work knife, beginning to trim the edges. Fine shavings drifting like curls at my feet. The gentle scraping blends into the silent forest, shaping the leather panels, envisioning a cloak stitch from mountain ridges, taking tough, sinew fibers, retrieving the prepared sinew rolls, dry stiff, pale sinew softens upon wetting. Sinew, supple as silk thread, begins stitching the pieces, pulling the sinew taut to close the gaps, sealing the panel joints. Fingers growing numb, pausing by the fire to warm, heat seeping into palms, recalling tales from frontier huts. On long winter nights, hunters believed leatherwork invited fortune for the next day's journey. Tradition minus keepers all say stitching is the hearth. Memory stirs comfort. Hands warmed, resuming stitching along the inner fold, reinforcing edges, shaping the cloak, finishing the seams. Lifting the shawl, it clings like a second skin. Heavy leather instantly traps body heat. Imagining walking through a snowstorm, the layered structures carved by mountains are astonishing. The instinct of raw materials, turning to the boots, faithful in deep winter. Sturdy boots lose their vigor, lacking proper insulation. Mountain boots lined with fur and straw on the barrier. Frozen toes gather scraps of grass from the ground. By the hearth, sifting for the softest stalk, grabbing handfuls to stuff. Straw boots fill the gaps. Leather slips between feet with gentle pressure. The difference within is immediate strop, adding cradle's warmth, resisting the icy bite. Snug and comfortable. Work thoughts occasionally drift to topics of discussion. Early wilderness researchers debated mountain footwear. Preference for fur-lined or straw-padded boots. Advantages of straw warmer, harder, dries more readily. Durability depends on season, terrain, hunters' habits. Warmth beneath the feet for rest. Straw boots cherish The simplicity and efficiency of the method. Standing and walking tests leather, strap aids, bark cushioning. Making boots makes fall soft and warm. Warmth traveling up the leg. Cold garments, inevitably with thin mountain folk, understand their importance well. The layered dressing principle is modern wisdom. Sweat condenses in the middle layer. The outer layer seals out moisture. Collect scraps of cloth. Stack them. Mend tears to prolong service. Wrap cloth tightly around wrists and forearm. Pull strips taut for a snug fit. Coat cuffs seal gaps where heat usually escapes. A simple scarf is fashioned. Leather strips thinned to wrap the neck. Coat warmth is tucked between collarbones, instantly gathering. Hood pulled up. Coat drape. Considering whether gloves alone suffice. Venturing deep into mountain paths. Fur gloves are shed. Fingers warm yet awkward to use. Precise tasks demand accuracy. Briefly bare-handed. Accepting numbness for control. Rummaging for fur. Folding makeshift gloves. Stitching them fast. Threads glide in. Warmth and furls. Inspect the glove's craftsmanship. Loosened comfortable. Make another. Complete the pair. By the hearth. Warmth. Use. Satisfied strides. Shell kisses. Layers of clothing defend. White minus marked for coat. Shoulders resting. Small shelter in the grass. Boot soles cushion footsteps. Warm wool gloves in palms. Paws to fit. Cold attempts to pierce the garments. Defenses breached. The mountains touches traced. The tale proudly recounts. The luxury of layered clothing. The armor of the seasons. Gentle breezes reveal kindness. Nearby rustling sounds. Listening to soft murmurs. Foxes scurry through the bushes. Pine forest shimmer faintly. Observing animals. Elegant isolation from nature's presence. Pondering early hunters' tracks. Observing foxes and wolves. Inspiring craftsmanship. Marveling at pelts. Dampness dissipates. Animals' resilience. Striding through storms. Testing garments. Wind skims skin with a light bite. Breaths drifting among soft clouds. Warmth deepening. Steadier. A glimpse of boot-top smiles. Grass lining hidden beneath cloak. Cloth straps tighten. Fur gloves ready. Facing mountains in quiet confidence. Returning to cottage. Nearing door. Warmth contrasts sharply with snow outside. Hang cloak by hearth to dry briefly. Sit down to loosen straps. Pressing wrists and palms. The garment simple yet like home. A portable dwelling. Protecting anywhere in the woods. Clothing fortifies the body. The forest calls. Preparing for winter's battle. Choosing to set forth. Dawn's first light. Stretching limbs. In the depths of silence. The crisp air crystallizes. Clothing shields the lungs. Piercing the chill. Ground and walls become barriers. Focus on subtleties. Grasp what's essential. Winter's weather shifts. Celestial warnings blizzard harmless. Storms subside. Bitter cold retreats. Mountains decipher weather's language. Listen. Observe. Interpret. Wilderness omens. Step outside. Inhale the crisp air. In stillness. Frost crystals shimmer. Surface glints catch cold light. Peer tingely direct. Squint your eyes. The horizon smears with thin clouds. The sky's brush strokes, notes, meticulously detailed. Old hunting logs, flat clouds, shapes foretelling wind direction, bringing warmth. The storm inevitable, pausing by the tree. Tall conifers tremble. The west wind pushes, erupts, a sustained pulse. Gloves on, letting the breeze touch. Fingertips rhythm irregular. Comfortable, moving mountains forward. Distant crackling, sharp echoes. Branches shedding weight. Forest ruins. Heed the strange sounds learned from the mountains. Come where the foretells. Temperature plummets. Cold currents surge. Ridges shift. Pressure drops. Trees crack. Distant gunshot arrives. Frozen crouch. Blue light flickers. Glances at gloves. Surface listens to deep moans. Frozen threat warns of deepening freeze. Fragments of winter proverbs. Hunter's weather prediction. Stream's tone. High minus pitched warmth. Low minus pitched moan. Cold wave approaching. Listen to deep resonance. Drowsy child ascends. Morning breath surveys surface transformed. Night summits mover. Shunya. Daylight melts. Thin ice shell forms. Air experiences rapid warming. Sudden drops trapping warmth in fleeting step. Layers form soft patches. Dark minus shaped. Squirrels leap. Chattering movements. Restless pursuit. Eyes detect the dive. Hiding pinnacles. Digging. Swift transport. Hollow little actions. Urgency. Filling the pantry. Time is short. Diaries passed down. Early settlers described animals sounding warnings. The storms gathered swiftly. Pausing. An unusually dramatic shift followed. Pressing palms together. Warm friction. Chill crept. Gazing skyward as dawn thickened. Sunrise's edge softening into haze. Storms herald. Footsteps shifting. Listening to the clearing. A creak near beneath foot. Pausing to observe. Treetops sway in unison. Tilting westward. Irregular undulations. Hinting at whirlwinds foretold. Capricious shifts. Reminding natural historians' debates. Frontier dwellers. Observing treetop oscillations. Predicting storms. Deeply convinced. Theories abound. Truth elusive. Standing transfixed by the sway. Doubting builders. More convinced. Drawn to the hearthside. Fingertips slightly caressing. Smooth stones wander. Markers of the snow's voice. The snow's voice creaks. The air beneath is cold and dry. A faint crackling sound. Temperatures hover near freezing. A sponge minus like silence of the storm lurks on the horizon. Footsteps leave clear, creaking traces on the floorboard. Soft hints of shifting threshold. Wind's whispers transform upon standing. Sounds shifting with it. Sighs as steady as ever. Breaths foam. Trees sound their warning. Urging the climber to draw gently near the shelter. In dim interiors. A weighty prison. Knees resting in kneeling repose. Thoughts reflected. Today's repairs and reinforcements. Listening to the forest vigilance. Maintaining constant readiness. Fear ever minus present. The storm descends. The hour hesitates. Night falls. Walls stand firm. Sealed chimneys. Sounds. Roof sweeping. Wood piles stacked. Instincts sharpened. Whispers. The forest completes its task. Storms of power always meet. The shelter is built. Patience strengthens wisdom. Repair. Cautious hands. Sitting in the dim cottage. A moment's listening. The wind's whispers shift outside. The storm waits. In the distance. Gathering strength. The ridge senses. Danger approaches. A brief pause. Breath begins. Heartbeat. Moment. Thoughts drift. Vivid. Timber. Stone. Companion. People welcome. Discovery. Contemplation. Loyal creatures. Sharing wilderness. Canine. Animal herd. Silence exists unnoticed. Offering warmest night. Rising to drawn ear. Opening door to greet. Warmer frontiers. Stepping into the clearing. Crisp snow beneath foot. The scent of pine smoke brushing the face. Pacing by the chimney. A soft whistle. A familiar figure trotting towards. A thick minus goated. Broad minus shouldered dog. Winter animals drawn ear. Tails wagging. Smiles. The pack kneels. Their backs cool with frost. Surface warmth. Deep within the hearth. Coarse cloth bearing words. Words of the hunter's companionship. Warning predators. Transporting provisions. Tracking wounded game. Warm nights by the campfire. Vivid narratives depict the blanket curled beside its master at dusk. Breath steeped in the scent of life. The icy touch. Warmth pressing against knees. Rising to follow. Sitting back by the hearth. Patting the fur. Resting peacefully. Surrounding breaths flow. Rhythms blending. The winds murmuring the chimney's low hum. Suddenly feeling the emptiness. Memories awaken. tales treasured by the family hunters, the affectionate pack refusing to journey far. As the storm approached, mules stamped their hooves, pacing in tight circles, heads alert with unease. On the mottled ridge where lone wolves traded, ears twitched, weight shifted, animals repeatedly settled, heard mountain stirrings, yet could not rise. Open the door, hound, lift, nose twitching, ears pricked, sniffing cautiously, watchful, scrutinizing oversights. Modern researchers debate frontier meteorological manuals. Trusting observation persists. Eyewitnesses doubt lies. Gaze. Learn the hound's stride. Side minus by minus side. Forest sounds. A distant crack. Sharper. Tilting. A rumble from the throat. Fear. Alertness. Leaning lightly to the side. Heavy footsteps. The dog presses close to the edge, gauging the ground. Squirrels chatter. Observing for a moment. Returning to the forest, sensing the air slightly heavy, quiet, contemplating fragments of legend. The surface consciousness of the mountains and forest deeply believes in tree spirits, growing deep, fantastical superstitions, narrating intertwined lives, a fleeting gaze, scanning eyes, flickering consciousness deciphers, innate instinct, countless winters spent kneeling, inspecting claw marks, wooden sticks, pulp adze, scabs, fragments of frostbite ignored, lightly brushed, many letters mentioned. Humans must thaw, fragile, hungry, weakened, returning, loyalty, coins exchanged for licking palms, pressing shoulders, guiding to the hearthside, settling in the warm flare, insulated heat replacing deliberation, sleeping through the expedition, curled up sharing the thermal blanket, breathing soft rhythms soothing sharp edges. Solitude narrates, describing frost-minus bound fur upon waking. Internal touch retain. Layers of sensation rise. Preparing soup and stew. Raising dried meat. Anticipating shared meal arrangements. Eating with gratitude. Light tapping. Soft sound cease. Jaw boots. Gazing at the hearth. Contemplating illumination. Moving to warmer spots. Animal instinct to conserve energy. Minimizing movement during storms. Breathing. Sleeping. Watching. Teaching. Surviving. Stillness. Light tapping. Gaps. Drawing attention. Snowflakes begin to fall. Stagnation. Curtains sliding. Ears pricked. Gazing. Clouds thickening. The sky spreads flat. Tightly closed. Covering. Sitting. Companion. Feeling small. Comfort. Scent. Hiding. Grass scent. Air fur. Merging as one. Space expands. Pressure. Closeness. Reflection. Vital. Companion's affection. History. Survival. Horses. Bearing burdens. Mules. Pioneering. Dog barks. Awakening the slumbering. Predator. Stranger. Creature. Offering warmth. Merely presence. At hand. Deepening breath. Where snow lies dormant. Warm flingers. Gloves remind. Lonely winter. Presence abounds. Soothing calm. Snowflakes herald storm. Roof murmurs. Firelight perceived. Walls shield. Sometimes life sits still. Companion feels pulse. Warmth spreads. Deep winter touches. Body slips into layers. Hides in wool. Knows the resilient. Immune to silent season. Frostbite chill. Tough echoes. Rib scars heal. Cold wooden woes. Heel arises. Stretches. Glimpses corner. Bundles of herbs. Simple tools. Lying in readiness. Dogs keeping watch. Brief repose. Curled over. Hidden bundles of herbs and by their knots. Humble winter remedies gathered in the forest. In the leather pouch from earlier journeys. Dry pine twigs. Willow bark. Bundles of sage. Faint traces of pine resin. Resinous knots on cloth. Simple yet powerful hands. Respecting purpose and description. Preserving notes. Generations' reliance. Local plants, healing men. Pine tips steeped in warm water. Soothe throats. Willow bark eases pain. Resin disinfects and seals. Small remedies. Magic persists in remote places. The doctor gathers resin. Its surface glints with filtered sunlight. Warm palms soften viscous resin to seal wounds, warding off ice, snow, and grime. Remembering when knuckles were cut. Kai selling through hinged timber blocks. Peeling back to inspect. Pale pink edges. Frost-bitten and inflamed. A thin layer applied. Slicing through sharp. Clean earth. Rapid cooling. The protective layer supple. The wound smiles. Danger. Infection spreads faster. Cold minus resistant wrapping. Bandage gloves. Bundling hay. Lifting to sniff. Bright and sweet. Pun food. Small pot holds snow. Placed on cold hearth. Awaits fire's rise. Mixture wands. Fragrant medicinal broth soothes countless nights of coughing and retching. Memory tightens and surfaces. Red of hunters, oaths. Tea carries the forest. Soothes the lungs. Unburdens the chest. Imagery up. Standing to gather ingredients. Underfoot. A crisp, crunch air, heavy and damp. The storm looming. Walking past fallen trees. Half minus buried bark unfurling in layers. Pale green leaves scooped into a soft pouch. Absorbing moisture to soothe. Warm compresses on skin. Shielding feet from the chill. Temporary bandages and cloth strips stowed away. The frozen stream's thin flow melting. Lapping over the overhanging. Crouching to scoop. Ice minus clear water. Dehydration prevention paramount. Only noticing the containers though when filled. Boiling water poured in. Sealed tight. Listening to distant coughs. The echo of snapping branches. Recalling the illness began with a tickling throat. The chill refusing to retreat. Coughs grew louder at night. The wilderness colder still. A subtle affliction crept in. An undercurrent gnawing away. Nailing. I kindled a fire. Coaxing life spark to spread. Warmth crawled up my feet as pine flames danced. Steam curling upward. Resin drifting in wisps. The hound sniffed. A strange, faint fragrance. The healer believed abundant fragrance banishes illness, faith and tradition comfort the heart. The rising fragrance brings tranquility. Sitting, I recall the earlier jingle of garments. The insulating protection of snow walls. True survival requires guarding the unseen rhythms, the warmth of breath, the pulse of skin, the unfastening of the wrist, checking fingers for pale patches, numbness the silent harbinger of frostbite, whiteness the warning, thawing the hope, approaching cautiously, rubbing rough patches, maintaining safe distance, heat-stinging fingertips, checking toes, pressing boots for warmth, grateful for lining blocking seeping chill, shedding warm cloak. This trick, learned from description. Night embraces legs to keep blood flowing. Sipping prepared tea. Taste, spicing fresh. Warmth spreading. Comfort settles in the chest, eyes close. Almonds vanish in an instant. Habit fortifies defenses. The wind murmurs softly. Drawn ear to rest. Caress the ground. A winter rarity. Reminding one to lead against the mountain silence. Emotion accompanies steadfast solitude gathering, storing neatly in the corner. Premises soften, pain eases, discomfort subsides, breath deepens. The earthenware vessels drink spreads, unfurling, dispersing the aching shoulders, stiffness, questioning modern frontiers, truly grasping botanical chemistry through trial and error, blending human and earth's lessons. Deliberately leaning against walls to feel warmth blossoming in deep slumber. Morning sips. Stepping outside briefly. Testing the cold night's weariness. Bones faint ache. Finding subtle remedies. Grasping true essence. Guarding health with confidence. Whispers beyond the mountains. The hearth fire grows. Warmth rises. Winter remedies stored. Preparing for challenges. Sitting guard beside. Warmth soaks hands. Spruced ease, fragrance lingers on the tongue, sharp and steady, knees drawn up in sleep, breath steady, the earth is still, the wind murmurs softly, brushing the walls, patience accumulates, The beast prepares for battle. Dusk deepens, grasping the essence. People's long nights stretch absent. Daylight deepens, weighty molding. Silence takes shape, the solitary flesh dwelling in wilderness. Darkness brings countless hours of contemplation. Hope, fear, memory, imagination, dreams. Corners illuminated by firelight, raising eyes to window gaps. The sky darkens. A faint, hazy glow pauses on the horizon. Clouds devour, hinting, stoking the small wood stove. Bark crackles, kindling a blaze. Filling, ember warmth dances upon the log, forms bending and stretching. Leaning in, a brief crackle, awaken countless tales. Survivors, accounts, fragments of the outside world collapsing, leaving murmuring breaths. Whispers accompany, transforming, creating comfort, concealing gazes. Small flames expand thoughts. Tranquil forest, thoughts drift freely, writing the simplest phrases, hinting at profound depths. Nighttime confessions stretch on. Memory paints strange stillness. The dark world allows time to breathe deeply. Only daylight permits. Sipping warmth through the throat. Faint resin mingling with wood and leather. Ancient scents drifting countless times. Winter bears memories. Rising, extending, moving. Warmth touches chin and thigh. The way of writing. Discussing packs of dogs. The silence of pack animals vast. Anticipated answers. Speech anchors life. Thick fur moving as it runs. Stability brings solace. Gradually intensifying. Brushing the ground. Whispering paths. Noise intertwining. Crackling. Creating rhythm to fill the space. Surging preserved diaries. The heartbeat describing stories. Narrating. Reciting memories. Imagined legends. Igniting the wilderness's immunity. Instinctive thoughts wandering. Shaping ancient tree guardians gazing upon the river of life storm minus. Seasoned rivers whispering frozen fishes. Legendary summer streams mountain dreams of snow patience. Eternal lies slowly leaning upon shoulders. Ceiling beams suspended gazing at drifting soft curves shimmering making the distant north tremble. Shifting warmth dispels chill. Adjusting dim corners. Nature's time stretches lines. Dreams intertwine with waking. Hazy writing. Half mine is asleep. Half mine is awake. Listening to distant journeys. Cottage memories. Departed kin. Pondering paths. Journeys vivid. Within reach. Settling into tranquility. Sounds blend. Distant crackling fades. Highs shift stones. Deep breaths wrap within quilts. Sounds. Warmth. Memories. Texts. Folklore. Ancestors. Winter nights invite dreams. Shaping the earth. Unwording. Echoes. Spirit. A leaf. Mountains listen. Humanity sleeps. Darkness bears. Thoughts softly return. Morning light reshapes. Truth crystallizes. Settling within the chest. Gazing at the waning flames. Clustered. Around the flickering orange embers at the center. Adding wood requires caution. Disturbing the tranquility. The logs sparkle. Igniting the light. Passing. On the corner, lifts slightly. A moment stretch. A gentle turn. The floor concealed. Comfort hidden within the layered cloak. Grass. Cushions recline. Slackened repose. Warmth deepening. Rhythm begins. Wind's breath. Companion. Faint light rests. Heartbeat in chest. Steady calm. Clock lantern. City clamor dissolves into world's profound slowness. Thoughts unfold. Vast silence. Scenery flows. Practicality drifts. Modern scholar. History's revelation. Inner pace gradually slows. Thoughts and plans settle. Preparing mind and spirit to meet needs and feelings. Gently gathering gratitude. Protective awareness. Quietly growing confidence. Preparations shift silently. Curled ears whisper softly. Body wrapped in warmth. Sharing heat in silent trust. Head fully at rest. Curled and dancing at the edge of vision. Pulse glimmers faintly. Heartbeat beyond. Whispers grow clear. Intentions stir with anger's movement. Another pair of heavy eyes in the depths, stretched and ready, cradles first day. Thoughts glide lightly into stillness. Winter's bestowed silence. Canine ribs. World's peaceful night. Welcoming silent arms. Awakening slowly. Floating in warm dreams. Softened ground. The soft red of the campfire scattered sleepy stars. Curled up by the stove. Breathing steady and silent. Like intimacy. Quietly descending. Long snowfall. In the blink of an eye. The senses awoke. The air of the waking world was different. Deeper and heavier. Stretching beneath the cloak. Muscles trembled lightly after long labor. Sitting. Listening to the solemn wind outside the window. Whispering reverence. Roof tiles shift. Grown beneath heavy ice. The forest wrapped in thick blankets. Still and calm. Brushing aside the blanket. Opening the door to greet the vast white carpet. Crisp and smooth. Untouched. Branches like pale curtains drape the ground. Soft ripples reflecting the scene. Morning lights soft and bright. The sky's silent grey backdrop diffuses light. Fresh air fills the lungs. Lung leaves crisp and sharp. Memories float in the heart. Old diaries record dawn light. Heavy snow tests patience. Design confronts. Pressure shifts weight. Melting snow's edge rises. Dampness surges. Stumps stir beneath. Today's inspection. Home's focused light. Footsteps tread snow. Boots sink deep. Feel resistance. Legs pressed tight. Lower legs sink deeper. Yesterday's threat revealed. Inspecting the roof. Sitting on thick bark. Spruce branches. Angled wood. Weight evenly distributed. Long pole guides the heavy section downward. Smooth descent. Dull thud fades. Accumulated shrubs collapse. Half-minus buried outline of the north wall. Pressure softens and drifts. Solid as an insulating sleeve. Blocking the cold's direct assault. Slowly encircling. Inspecting crevices. Logs. Moss-tight gap. Upper edges slightly shrunken, small tufts of dead grass in deep cold spots. Light pressure with bag. Thumb pressing crevices. Cold dissipating. Silent pillars of survival. Problems emerge. Disaster creeps silently, leaks like a raw minute cracks. Invisible weaknesses grow. Persistent neglect. Backlash erodes. Uneven ground. Scraped areas reveal shallow protrusions. Soil displacement. Edges compressed. Danger emerges, yet serves as warning. Spring brings renewal. Old things melt. Earth deforms. Timber subsides. Brook tilts. Cracks appear. Kneel to inspect bulges. Gloves worn to brush away softness. Powdery snow glistens. Soil layers shimmer, trapping moisture. Generations of inscriptions, recorded ever more firmly. Frost binds all things. Movement sets all things in motion. Scholars study structures. Debate the builders, responding to motion. Believing deliberate preservation. Slight gaps in the base accommodate expansion, hinting at elevated construction. Stone platforms directly support rammed earth. After weeks of observation, footprints step in, sinking into powdery snow. Furred legs dusted with snow. Pausing beside, violently trembling. Sparks flying. Sunlight and laughter. Warm mornings. Chill lingering. Presence deepening. Southern softness extending. Trickles melting. Clusters of stone emerge. Threats rise daily. Seasonal currents soften foundations. Push stones away. Allow free flow rather than pooling against walls. The coping stones clinging to the hearth remain stable. Testing mortar's strength. Gloves leave faint marked. Returned after storm shifts. Pushing external space. Head enters. Sealing the doorway. Sealed room warms gradually. Faint sunlight filters through crack. Breath condenses into swirling mist. Kneeling to build the dawn. Sparks swiftly ignite the dry wood stored by the wall. Flames burst forth. Orange light spans. The circle beside eager smiles. Warmth rises. Sitting to feel the change, walls lengthen. Floor grows comfortable. Roof sound muffled by heavy blankets. space more compact, quiet more comforting, the hut more enduring, a growing sense of control, a fortress built with hands. The weight of emotion floats, letters from years past, memories describing fall, seasons test survival, the shifting earth. Meltwater seeps underground, resisting heavy snowfall, a belated realization. Fear the shelters collapse. Neglected, sip lukewarm water. Lean back to the stream's faint moan. Listen closely, crackling sighs. Whispers. Night fades. The world falls silent. A faint light rises. Inspecting. The interior stays dry, solid beneath the bark. Moisture seeps upward. Their currents crawl along the walls. A silent victory. Kneeling to rest. Palm steady. Against the earth. Slowly circling the house. Inspecting joints and corners. Following the grain. Fingertips touch. Lingering warmth stings. Head resting on wood. Eyes half minds closed. Sitting beside. Letting stillness. Outside lights soft and bright. New weight bears down. Inside, prepared. Whatever trials the season brings. Growth meets challenge. Calm strength. Pausing by the hearth. Breathing settles. Letting it flow. Gently washing hands. Stretching shoulders. Warm light fades. Logs lie still. Bedding softens. Curled beside me. Fur nestled in nostrils. Building a wooden nest. Careful choices finally take shape. Rising. Stretching. Pacing to the door. Knowing the hour. Reflecting truth. The wilderness revealed. Gently opening the door. Cool air brushes the face. Familiar threats. Dim starlight. Hazy dawn. Only footprints encircling. Untouched by dust. Morning seems calm. A faint clicking sound. Distant ice shifting. A moment's pressure. Boots standing firm. Behind solid walls. Steadfast support. Confidently rising. The pale chimney stands straight and firm. Drawing in the view. Deep breath. Mountain hill. Monumental construction. Beauty and pride. Beauty and simplicity. Proof of resilience. Evidence is the silent partnership. Man and land. Working together. Attempting to understand. Lifting timber and stone. Filling gaps. Shaping fall. Echoes of frontier families' footsteps. The solitary hunted whirled long before his treads graced the clearing. Steady progress. Along crevices. Moss gently brushed. Art pressed tight against gaps. Solid foundations gathered. Forming natural barriers. Embrace. Structure like winter garb. Branches weaving the northern wall. Yesteryear simple, shield now layered into fortitude. Amidst the tempest, minute choices bear immense weight. Scrutinizing memories. Deciphering tales of inheritance. Family chronicles. Shelters built. Winter's essence. Cold meticulously sculpted. Spring's tenderness. Yet never possessed. Resilient as timber. Mind shafts like conviction. Practical as truth. Pride like hardship. Standing beside winter. Understanding that effort forges meaning. Returning indoors. Pushing open the door. Familiar silence settling. Faint light trembling. Shadows shift. Logs sway. Momentarily startled. Gazing. Claws hanging down. Kneeling. Drawing near. Surrendering. Warmth seeps in. Crimson floats. Memory's footsteps bring presence. Choosing where to dwell. Reading the trees. Soil swaying. Arms scorched. Shaping beams. Stacking stones. Filling crevices. Raising roofs. Severing ties to the earth. Fortifying foundations. Chimneys resist. Learning behavior. Listening. Drawing wisdom. Distant travelers. Caring companions. Fragment bonding walls. Knowing historians debate frontier influences on later architecture. Mountain settlements. Believing in early regional traditions laid in foundations. Debating temporary structures built solely for solitary survival. Perspectives piece together truth, perhaps heritage lies dormant within structure. Thought forging. Ingenuity and patience. Reverence. Nurturing the land through seasons. Willingly learning hardship. breathing slowly to feel warmth, removing gloves to cushion knees. Misty smoke and pine resins whirl, fingertips trace wood grain, vitality in both smooth and rough, sensing in stillness. Achievement settles in the chest, turning to glimpse soft light beyond the crevice. Afternoon shadows faintly dim, imagining spring thaw unveiling earth, new shoots breaking ice walls, frozen soil loosening, roof settling, endurance. Slender hands briefly touch warmth, heat sinks into cheeks. Night wind, weariness from labor, cautious nature, whispers, bringing, standing silent, witnessing resolve, perfect mountain dwelling, solid, yaw, rising, wobbling, footsteps, closer, shoulder to shoulder, seated round the fire, showing, patience forged, outside, light, whispers, gazing up, eyes meet the rafters, marveling at the lines, steadfast, reflecting the weight borne, winter, wisdom belt, listening to the earth, guarding vital matters, trusting instinct, revering the cold, trying warmth, seeking, inhaling deeply, feeling expansion, chest still, peaceful, resilient, journey begins. The frostbitten find rest beside the soft minus light stone. Exhaling let sediment seep into bone marrow. The spirit softens the chill with breath. Outside, it grows distant, muffled, almost illusory, settling into place. The walls support light and fire. Grain rests, secure. Dogs lie still, legs steady, gentle undulations. Listening to faint crackles. Embers burn slow, unhurried, peaceful, sound steady, soothing spirit, command easing. The outside world falls silent. Night's rhythm drifts, urgency fades, silence settles, tension eases, ghosts of earlier hours. Eyelids heavy, shoulders wrapped thicker, soft comfort, muscles slacken, labor released, long tails, cold dawn light. Caution, choices fade, background lingers, deep comfort, feeling safe, sleep stretches limbs, curls beneath cloak, deeper cover, gentle fragrance, drifting pleasantly, slowing pace, pulse synchronized, twilight world, need to continue, mind a storm, waiting for the forest, waiting for the fall, hurried moments, warm repose, thoughts soft and smooth, silent, winter fully encircling, sweet dreams,